Welcome back to the VHS Files Podcast, and tonight, we're the masters.
Woo!
Show enough.
What's going on, everybody? Tonight, we have a first. We have some guests on the show with us tonight. Some friends of ours. Eric has done their podcast. I have done their podcast. Jason has not because he's a lazy bastard. But let's welcome Troy and Brad from Not a Bomb Podcast. How are you guys doing?
Hey guys!
Yay! We're achieving the glow as we guest on this. So,
Am I the meanest? Am I the prettiest? Am I the baddest mofo low down around this town? I think so.
No.
Maybe so.
No.
Yeah.
I think in this week you are, yeah, probably.
Yeah. It says like right now he's pretty much like the Josh version when Josh talks about Friday.
And you know this, man.
Well, you can see behind Troy, he has a Last Dragon poster behind his head. A lot of the reason we decided to have Troy and Brad come on our show is we're talking about a special movie. I know these two guys are super fans of kung fu movies, ninja movies, karate, gun kata, all that stuff. And I figure, what is a better movie that combines everything about what they love and what we love, 80s cheese, The Last Dragon. I mean, it's the perfect film for a compilation of podcasts to talk about.
Nothing like this on stage, screen, radio, TV, or cable, baby. This is an exclusive.
It is the perfect film.
the podcast Key Party, yeah, it's perfect.
It is. I do have a question. I should have thought of this before, but was this movie a bomb?
No, it was not.
Oh,
Nope.
okay.
Critically, it didn't do great.
So it's not a bomb, is what you're saying.
Financially, it was not a bomb, but critically, it was a bomb. So that's a good question. Why has The Last Dragon, a movie that obviously Troy loves, not been on Not a Bomb Podcast yet?
So we at first go for the ones that maybe have the 1-2 punch of the critical plus box office failure.
Uh-huh.
Those are a lot more interesting to talk about. I would say this is also a hard one to talk about for us because it's just in the pantheon for me. It's something that I revere, kind of like Big Trouble in Little China. When we reviewed Big Trouble in Little China,
Right.
that was kind of a tough episode because what do you say about Big Trouble in Little China that hasn't been said before?
Please, what is that? Don't tell me.
True. And how is that not a highly regarded movie? I mean, people are ridiculous if you don't like that movie.
I agree. And Brad and I'm so glad you picked it because I've always said about this show, this to me is the equivalent of walking around a Blockbuster with your friends and you're talking about like movies on the shelf, et cetera. And it just has, it treats everything with irreverence, but it's a lot of fun. Whereas we do a little bit more of a critical dive. And I don't know, to me, I wouldn't want to put it on Not a Bomb. I don't know how Brad feels about it because I would reserve it for something like this where we can just have fun with it. Not that we don't have fun at Not a Bomb, but
Brad actually threw the idea of doing this on our show with us. So Brad, how do you feel about The Last Dragon and why it hasn't been on your show yet?
Well, I mean, we've only been doing the show we've only done 130 episodes, so I mean, we've got a lot to do.
We've only done 130.
Only 130.
You guys have done more episodes than us.
Yeah, you know, we'll take it out and we'll measure how many episodes you guys have to ours. It's like Troy was saying, it's just one of those movies. It's hard to, hey, remember that time those guys fought and it was awesome? You know, it's like something like that. But eventually, if we keep doing this show for long enough, we would have gotten around to do it. But there's just much more. I mean, and I guess the 59% on Rotten Tomatoes isn't terrible. So like,
it's come around. It's one of those that, yes, initially the critics just didn't get it. But if you look at it now, I mean, it's held in such reverence within the film community and even film critics as general. It's hard to go on a show and go, hey, we're going to talk about a film that bombed, because even people are discovering now, like, that's not a bomb. Like, everybody loves that film.
At that time, there were absolutely no Black superheroes. It was a culture that young Black people could embrace and look up to and say, you know what? There's some young Black people on the screen. They're doing good stuff, positive stuff.
Well, to make this episode interesting, this is a first-time watch for Eric and Jason. So this is going to be a fun episode.
Shut the front door.
Never seen this movie.
Kiss my Converse.
Oh my God.
I should say I thought it was my first watch, but as I got into it, I realized I had seen it before, but not. I remembered very little, but what I did remember was at some point earlier in the movie, they mentioned the idea of catching a bullet with your teeth.
Catches bullets with his teeth.
When they said that, like a light bulb went on over my head, and I go, I've seen this. Like I remember now, but a lot of it I could not quite recall. But yeah, this one, it might as well have been a first watch, but there was bits of it in there somewhere. Maybe I saw it on TV as a kid or something.
Yeah, I remember, hearing people talk about the characters. So when I watched it, it's like, okay, I remember these characters. Why have I not watched this whole movie? And the whole bullet thing, that was one of the things that, man, you gotta watch this movie. The guy catches, a bullet with his teeth and shit. You're like, wait, didn't Bruce Lee already do that or something? I don't know. But this was, I like Eric. This is definitely a first sit down, beginning to end watch.
I'm so excited.
I think Show Enough is in like the zeitgeist of pop culture to the point where like I was familiar with that character outside of the film, just from seeing him.
People come dressed up as Shonuff and Bruce Leroy. They're really into it.
Yeah, so where do you guys sit with like kung fu films and ninja films in general?
Well, you guys and I have talked a lot about the Shokasugi movies.
Yeah.
Like I watched the shit out of Shokasugi movies when I was a kid, which led to movies like this. And all the other kung fu movies that kind of lead down that line. But I was never really
Shaw
into
Brothers stuff.
I was never into the Shaw Brothers. I never watched any of the samurai movies or any of those sort of things. I was kind of like in that niche of like ninja movies. I'm the only one coming to this movie with any nostalgia tonight other than you guys. So, but that's where I stand on kung fu stuff. I know Jason's not super big into it. And I know Eric's talked about wanting to do like American Ninja and things on the show before, but we haven't done
I
those
mentioned
yet.
American Ninja too, because I love that movie as a kid.
A lot of the names you guys are throwing around I'm not familiar with.
Me either.
I remember renting a lot of ninja movies as a kid, like American Ninja and the like, but I haven't gone back to them as an adult. So a lot of that stuff, I don't know the names of anything. I don't remember, if I saw the box art, if I saw some of it, I would remember it. But no, really, if you're talking like martial arts movies in general, I watched a lot of Jackie Chan stuff back when I was younger. I know you're a big Jackie
You're
Chan
talking
guy.
Troy's language now.
I know. When I say I watched a lot, in comparison to the rest of this, not a lot like you, most of his movies I'm familiar with, and Jet Li and some of that stuff. Ultimately, it's not a genre that I can speak with any kind of authority on. I don't know very much at all. Oh, I had seen Enter the Dragon too. I should.
Yeah,
Okay.
seen the Bruce Lee movies.
Couple
yeah.
Bruce Lee movies, like some, not all of them, but yeah, I was familiar with some of that stuff.
Enter the Dragon is the only Bruce Lee movie I've ever seen. So I'll go ahead and put that out
you
there.
need to correct that. Yeah. So where does everybody sit in terms of your exposure experience with blaxploitation specifically?
Mine's I'm Gonna Get You, Sucker.
Crazy? Don't you know this Mr. Big Place?
It's like you just lost your liquor license.
Okay. it has some icons in there.
Yeah.
I love I'm Gonna Get You, Sucker.
So Ron Van Cleef, Jim Kelly, those guys not in your repertoire? Or...
No.
Okay.
Now, same here. I had a note in my notes that I wrote.
You have a great gift for rhyme. Yes. Some of the time.
The two genres that we're putting together here, I cannot hardly speak about at all. So like this is going to be a tough one for me. I'm going to kind of sit back.
No, this
you guys
is the perfect. Listen, this is the perfect gateway drug for that because you will get the essence and feel of that. I mean, it is emerging. As much as it's an 80s film, it is an 80s film that is a love letter to everything from the 70s.
Right.
So,
yeah.
Which is amazing. But I'm excited for all you guys to kind of sit down, especially Eric and Jason, to rediscover it. And in my household, we at least watch this annually, if not 2 or 3 times a year. So I've already seen it like twice this year. It's It's a favorite of mine. It's a favorite of the family. My kids can quote it. My wife loves it. Every time I'm like, hey, I'm gonna watch The Last Dragon, she's like, yeah. So, but they know my love of like Jim Kelly. Jim Kelly's one of my favorite actors of all time. When I saw Enter the Dragon, I was not fascinated with Bruce Lee. I was fascinated with Jim Kelly, and Black Belt Jones is one of my all-time favorite films.
Gotcha. See, now that's a movie I've never seen. So
yeah, you got to. You can skip the sequel, Hot Potato. It's kind of goofy, but Black Belt Jones is fantastic. Three the Hard Way is another great one. But look, we're derailing.
Yeah, but first we got to lay down some ground rules.
Let's talk a little bit about The Last Dragon. It was directed by Michael Schultz. It's branded as Berry Gordy's The Last Dragon. Berry Gordy, the founder of Motown. And this movie came out on March 22nd, 1985. Budget of $10 million. Ended up doing $33 million at the box office. So this was definitely not a financial bomb. So that's one reason you're not going to see it on their podcast. This was one of those movies for me, again, like it was a combination of a lot of stuff I was watching when I was younger. It threw in the ninja movies. It had the blaxploitation stuff that I was watching. And it just, I kind of liked that it was a melting pot of all these different things that I was a fan of at the time. Now, there's not much that Jason and Eric are probably going to have to say on that regard because they don't have that nostalgia for the movie. But I remember loving this movie as a kid, and it was just one of those that was like, if I just wanted something to put on, this was like comfort food. Like I would just put this on and have fun with it. Watching it as an adult, I can see why people may have some issues with it, but I still love it to death.
Wrong, totally wrong. If you're an adult and you don't love this film, you're a communist and you have no soul. So,
well, I'm anxious to hear what Jason has to say about this one. Let's just put it that way. It's time to throw it over to Eric. He's going to take us back to 1985. Eric, take us back in time.
We're sending you back in time. Whoa, this is heavy.
Well, Josh, in 1985, you'd pull up your spandex, then your leg warmers, and carefully insert your shoulder pads. You'd hop into your Honda Prelude and rotate that radio dial to hits like Head Over Heels by Tears for Fears and or Like a Virgin by Madonna. You hit the theater for movies that we've covered here on the VHS file. All these movies. Back to the Future, Goonies, Reanimator, Teen Wolf, The Stuff, Life Force, Friday the 13th, Part 5, and The Legend of Billie Jean. A book I love, and I know Jenny loves this too, The Talisman. Stephen King and Peter Straub came out in 1985. Did you guys know that Kim Jong-un was a big Stephen King fan?
No, I didn't.
He was a real fearless reader. Fearless reader. The very first WrestleMania was held in Madison Square Garden in 1985. Do you guys know that Gordon Ramsay's a big pro wrestling fan? Yeah, no. His favorite wrestling move is the suplex.
This is my favorite part of the show. I'm sorry, I love these. They're amazing.
Let's see. Auburn running back Bo Jackson won the Heisman Trophy in 1985. Bo Jackson.
Go Bo! Bo knows.
Bo knows, exactly. Fun fact, if you laid out all the veins in your body end to end across a football field, you would likely die. And finally, you guys know what Bo Jackson smells with? Bo knows. Bo knows. Bo knows. And finally, the 80s really were a time of innovation. Hit it, Josh.
This is
Scrub Brusher,
Black & Decker's powerful cordless scrubber. Scrub Brusher helps get you through your worst scrubbing jobs. From the garage to the backyard to the deck.
Electronic
through the
bathroom
living room,
scrub brush.
up the stairs, into the bathroom, onto
I think
the
Jenny would like one of
the
these.
tile, the grout.
And we know what she's doing with the scrub brush in that
bathroom and into the bath.
Maybe there's another attachment or something.
Yeah, definitely. She's got the.
You wouldn't want to clean the tub and.
Yeah.
Anyway. So 1985. I mean, gosh, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 movies we've covered from 85. We're getting close to 87 numbers here.
Yeah, I'd hate to. I'd hate to know how many 1987 ones we covered so far. I guess I should look that up.
Yeah, it's more. I'll tell you that.
85 to 87 for me was one of the greatest just years of film altogether. If you think about some of the classics, it's pretty damn amazing.
Yeah.
84, 85, and 87. That's like the trifecta of years.
Don't forget 86. 86 has some bangers, man. That whole like mid 80s to late 80s, pretty impressive.
I feel like we've neglected the 86 for a little while. I know we've done a couple of movies from 86.
You didn't neglect it when you talked about douchebags, I'll tell you that.
And I'm going to kick it off with Tom Cruise, Maverick, and Top Gun.
Wow.
You son of a bitch.
What is he on your list?
Number one.
Holy shit.
So you're the one. Yes, ma'am.
I'll go ahead and say this. That was kind of my kickoff joke to troll Troy from Not a Bomb podcast.
You can kiss my Converse for all those comments about Maverick.
Wow.
So, okay, but go ahead.
Well,
Sorry.
speaking of Converse, let's start talking about The Last Dragon. There were a couple of things that were said in this movie quite a few fucking times. So I want you to start thinking about a number, okay? Boy. How many times is the word master said throughout this movie?
I do not know, Master.
And the second is, how many times was show enough said in this movie?
Show enough.
Now let me let me put an asterisk by show enough. I did not include when they shorten it, so any kind of show, nothing, no, it wasn't
Mr.
show.
Nuff.
No Mr. Nuff, none of that kind of stuff. It's just show enough. So that's what you have to think about.
Troy's just like going through his brain files. He's like tallying up the numbers right now.
The problem is when we watch this, we're quoting it. So whatever the number is, times that times 4. And that's what's going on in my head. Because like for show enough, my number is like, it's got to be like 422 because that's how many times I hear it while we watch this film.
Be thinking about that as we go through this episode. And towards the end, I will reveal how many times each of those words was said. And bonus points if you can tell me which one was said more, master or show enough.
Wow. Okay.
And another fun fact here, in 1985, The Last Dragon was nominated for 2 Razzie Awards. We're back to Razzie Awards here.
Oh.
Ultimately, the award that it was nominated for went to Rambo First Blood Part 2. But what was the category Last Dragon was nominated in? And I will give you multiple choice, especially since Eric and Jason have never seen this movie.
Troy with his hand up. Teacher.
Troy, you have to wait. I'm not going to call on you because you're teacher's pet.
Wait till the end of class.
It was also nominated for a Golden Globe, so not just a Razzie. I want to put that out there.
So, as far as Razzies go, was it worst original screenplay, worst new star for Timac, or worst original song?
Ooh.
Jason, what do you think?
Worst original song.
Eric, what do you think?
I'm afraid to say. I kind of want to say Timac.
Brad, do you know, or you want to give a guess?
I think I know what it is. So do you want me to guess?
Well, you can either guess or I can throw it to Troy and he can tell us the right answer because I'm pretty sure he knows it.
Go ahead, Troy.
Worst original song.
Bam!
It was nominated twice in that category.
Yeah, it had 2 nominations for that.
For Seventh Heaven?
The Last Dragon and Seventh Heaven.
I'm about to say that Last Dragon. And yeah. Whoa.
But this soundtrack is banger. So do not listen to the Razzies. This is an amazing soundtrack. So.
Well, it's a good thing, and I'm kind of glad I started with that because the one thing about this movie is it revolves around music. I mean, you got the founder of Motown producing this movie. Of course, we're going to have some music throughout it, and it definitely revolves around the music. So I found that interesting. That's another thing, like as a kid watching the stuff I was watching, like I was watching Grease, I was watching Footloose, I was watching Dirty Dancing, movies that revolved around music. This is another one to throw in the melting pot where it was like, you're going to give me Kung Fu, 80s cheese, dancing, awesome songs. Well, awesome to me anyway. We'll see what everybody else thinks. But that
a little
was
bit
just
of the supernatural.
A little bit, yeah.
You know, which is nice.
It was just another thing that kind of solidified it as a staple for me when I was watching it when I was younger. Jason, I would like to know, we're going to start with you since you're the freshest pair of eyes. When you started this movie, what was your first initial thought? Don't let the fact that you've got fans of this movie dissuade you from saying what you're going to say. Give me what your actual thoughts were when you started watching this movie.
I'm hungry.
Yeah. I'm hungry. The kung fu kick to the title there is like, okay. Let's see how this goes from here.
I'm really nervous.
Yeah, I was just kind of like, watch. You started here, and I'd already, like I said, when they told me what the name of the movie was, and I went and looked it up real quick, and I was just kind of like.
There was some apprehension from Jason on talking about this movie. I will be honest. Jason might not like that I'm putting him on blast here, but it was like Jason comes back and he goes, "Can we do a movie we're more familiar with?" Like, I don't know about. You got some low rent Eddie Murphy looking guy in the trailer here.
Yeah.
So
no. I basically called him great value Eddie Murphy SNL character.
Timac is not a great value. Oh
no, I'm talking about Show Enough.
He's talking about Show Enough.
No.
Shogun of Harlem.
Julius Carey is oh Jesus.
but him, I knew him from that show Briscoe County Jr.
Yeah.
You lose.
Guess again.
I knew him from there, but when I originally watched the trailer, like I said, because I didn't watch the movie, and I was like, this is totally a ripoff of an Eddie Murphy character that Eddie Murphy could have done in the 80s at any time. This is just a great value Walmart brand.
So can we drop some facts here? The person they wanted for Show Enough was specifically Jim Kelly.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And he turned it down because he did not want to play a villain. Now, the other people they wanted were people like Carl Weathers, Billy D. Williams, Fred the Hammer Williamson, Jim Brown.
Denzel Washington, his name comes up twice. They wanted him for Bruce Leroy and for Show Enough. He was in the running for both those parts.
Could you imagine if Denzel Washington was the Last Dragon?
Show Enough ain't got shit on me.
Well, they even like Bruce Leroy. I looked that up. They had Wesley Snipes, Mario Van Peebles, Lawrence Fishburne.
Yes.
Yep.
And Denzel Washington for
this
Bruce
was
Leroy.
supposed to be they lobbied hard for Jim Kelly, and if you've ever seen Jim Kelly movies, I mean, he would have been perfect for it,
right?
Except the fact is that, I mean, Jim Kelly's Jim Kelly. He doesn't play the villain. Julius Carey is an actor first. He knows no martial arts.
Julius Carey came in, and he was clean cut, very collegiate looking guy, tall, but a really good actor, and had no martial arts skill or training whatsoever.
Before he auditioned, he was kind of playing Show Enough and walking around doing his stuff. So right away, he had no competition, and we just said, you're Show Enough.
He's tall, so they couldn't even find a stuntman to do his work, which is why he does all his own stunts in the film. Yeah.
And the complete opposite end of that, I think the reason Timac was cast as Bruce Leroy is because he was a martial artist.
He was a trained fighter.
I heard about this film, The Last Dragon, being cast in the competition scene in the martial arts world. Everybody was talking about it. And all of a sudden I get a call from my karate instructor at the time, Ron Van Cleef, and he said that he's gonna be working on this film and that he has a script and as a choreographer. And I had no acting experience. I just dreamed of being like Bruce Lee because, he was my hero.
His sensei was Ron Van Cleef too, who was doing the choreography for the film. And, he had no acting experience. So actually Barry Gordy took him under his wing.
Really?
Are you serious? He had no acting experience?
Yeah, I believe
weird. It's so weird.
They taught him how to act.
He's so natural
during
on
the movie.
camera.
He is so natural. He's
Wow.
We invite these people on our show and then we just insult them repeatedly.
not insulting me. Look, Timac, he's amazing in this film. If you ever meet him, he's the greatest person ever. The coolest thing though is, he has this innocence to him. He's got the martial arts skill, but he has this innocence. And you can say like lack of acting might be an issue. I think it sort of adds to the charm to him.
He was this very pure, innocent young person. And one of the ways that we would capture that with him was not have him ever do contractions, like can't. He would always have to say, cannot.
He does not even have a paintbrush.
Yeah, you may go, wow, yeah, I can see he's a first-time actor, but that's part of the character, man.
Well, it is interesting how he sort of has this you know, he basically acts like Bruce Lee or acts like some of these Asian characters, and he's in Harlem, and you've got the Asians acting like black guys, and that whole dynamic. I thought that was really fun, and just how like everyone thinks he's corny. And
Please, I must see the master. It is very important to me.
You go now. Chop, chop. Holy ass out of this place.
Well, that was New York. It was always this cross-cultural thing. We were all taking from each other. I wanted his family to have an Italian restaurant. Everything I do is trying to take any particular stereotype or cliche and turn it on its head.
Yeah, you don't get $30 million in ticket sales in 1985 money unless you go for a broad audience. And this film was truly a melting pot for its time period.
But watching this movie now, like with fresh eyes, I could probably see why people would be like, this is really weird. You don't see this kind of stuff happening anymore in movies. We're probably going to end up dunking on Timac a lot. I'm sorry, but to be fair, Timac has a couple of really, really good moments in this movie that I want to talk about. And we'll get to them when they come up in the conversation.
And, you know, he obviously does all the physical stuff really well. And talking about this opening with the sweaty bare chest, I mean, that's pretty normal for the time. And when that kicked on for me, I was like, all right, let's go. Like I was into it.
Yeah, Eric's all about the sweaty, hard body men. He's all about it. Yeah,
I was into it.
He chops that arrow for real. I mean, that took 2 hours to do. They kept shooting arrows at him, and he
That's
finally
awesome.
shot. Yeah, so there's some talent there in that first. Jason, were you not attracted to the glistening body of Timac and him chopping an arrow? How could you not be like, this is my movie?
No. I'm not Eric.
Hey, that's pretty cool though. The name Timac is pretty sweet. Like
one name.
It's a strange name.
Timac. Timac sounds like maybe like a He-Man character or something. Timac.
Oh yeah. But you know, the establishment of the beginning of this movie is Leroy is looking for the master. He's looking for someone to guide him through his journey to find the glow. It's what they talk about, or what he talks about as he goes through this movie, looking for the glow. And Jason, you have to elaborate on your laughter. What are you laughing about?
Every time I heard the word glow in this movie, all I went, just let your soul glow. That's all I heard. Every time they said something about glow in here was Coming to America. Every time they said the word glow, and you can see that glistening hair, I was like, where's the Soul Glow commercial? Where is it going to pop up in this movie?
I need more of that voice. That was an awesome voice.
I could do it.
I'm sure we'll get more as time goes on.
Yep. I like to run things into the ground. You know, Josh.
But I really like the master. I don't know if we ever really get the master's name that Leroy's working with here. I would call him his sensei, his master, whatever you want to call him.
Yeah. Leroy's master.
It seems a little odd to call him his master in pretext, but whatever. But he sends him on this journey. He's going to go look for...
There is an old sage called Some Dumb Guy.
Yeah, some dumb guy.
Which always brings me back to Wayne's World.
I'll have the cream of some young guy.
Yeah, they're playing with lots of stereotypes here that wouldn't really go over nowadays, but but it's such a mishmash. I mean, all the show enough stuff, all the chopsticks, you know, just...
And popcorn.
Like just in the opening, it's just got like a guy clicking some chopsticks. He's not even part of the exercise. It's just a click some.
Was that in response to Karate Kid, maybe?
I don't know.
Karate Kid was the year before, I think.
Was it?
Oh.
Yeah, it's just the stereotype. I mean, again,
they call them chopsticks.
It's all about stereotypes. It breaks down stereotypes.
He wants to reach the pinnacle, right? He wants to become a master himself. And it got me thinking about that time period and all the martial arts movies. And as a kid, I felt like at that time, maybe this is like pre-internet days, and particularly like pre-MMA days. I feel like everyone thought if you trained in one of these, you know, kung fu or something, the right amount, you would be like basically a superhero. Like people believed that, like, you know what I mean? Like in real life, you know what I'm saying? And it was all about climbing the ladder of the belts the belt colors. You know, you want to get to the peak. I get to the top.
I took karate lessons. I mean, look at me.
No, I took Taekwondo. It's pretty obvious looking at me. I'm a Taekwondo guy.
I don't know. When I was watching any of the 80s karate kung fu movies, my idol was Chuck Norris and Lone Wolf McQuade. You know, you get buried in a truck, you crack open a beer, you drink it, you drive your truck out, and you kick everybody's ass.
Because he knew karate. That's
exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
A very particular type of karate, which is white guy karate too. So
white guy karate is the most deadly. Let's just be honest.
Jason's into redneck karate. That's his thing.
Is it redneck ninja?
Redneck ninja. I throw ninja stars.
He throws bottles of Pedialyte.
Yes.
Troy, you were the only one who would have been alive and at a theater in the 70s. So was a theater experience anything like what you see in this movie?
So it's funny what they're trying to recreate is like the 42nd Street time of New York. I'll say this. I saw The Last Dragon in the theater opening weekend, and I had to have been like 13. So preteen or teenager, right? Just right there. But you cannot recreate, I think, the magic of just seeing Bruce Lee or like Enter the Ninja, Revenge of the Ninja. This stuff, when it hit the theater, and more importantly, when it hit VHS, it wasn't so much the theater experience. And maybe what I always find fascinating is Brad and I obviously have a different age difference, but me seeing this in the theater and then going and renting it on VHS. And I remember more of my VHS watching days than seeing these things in the theater.
Right.
What's funny is Brad and I share kind of that same memory because he's discovering this stuff on, DVD, VHS. And we're always talking about like Enter the Ninja, Revenge of the Ninja. I saw him in the theaters and then would go rent them with all my friends. And we're going in the backyard with our ninja suits trying to act it out. And it's funny, Brad's doing the same thing, more or less.
Right. And mine was always based on like hearing the Wu-Tang Clan rap about all that stuff and going out and searching out like what they're talking about with that. So, you go to Blockbuster and you're like, oh, they talked about this movie, but what about this Last Dragon movie too? And then you just grab it and get addicted to it.
I definitely thought about Wu-Tang watching this, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very...
Definitely.
It's a big influence. I mean, you cannot underestimate the influence of this film just within the cultural narrative of the U.S., especially for a group of people. It was so influential.
Look at some of Busta Rhymes' videos from the 90s. Show Enough is like kind of a character he plays.
I put that down as a recast. They should do this and get Busta Rhymes to play Show Enough.
Busta Rhymes has dressed up as Show Enough, and I think his Dangerous video, he's dressed up like
Dangerous, yes, that's right. Yep.
Am I the meanest? Show Enough, am I?
Troy, talking about this in the VHS store, like you're right. And I remember it would have its own section. It was all martial arts films, and you're not really getting martial arts as like a genre section these days.
Well, that's where the VHS era really is kind of a love letter to those movies, because that was the big thing. Like that's the stuff people went to the rental stores and sought out, were the kung fu movies and all that weird shit that you would never see on television or anything like that. That stuff's almost lost. Like, you can't find Enter the Ninja or Revenge of the Ninja most of the time on any kind of streaming services. It's hard to find all of those 80s like kung fu movies.
It's tough. I love companies like Vinegar Syndrome, stuff like that, who are taking Cynthia Rothrock, Billy Blanks, all of that stuff, which are just late 80s, early 90s gems, like classic gems. They're giving them the proper treatment.
I just ordered Commando Ninja.
Oh God, that's so good. But I mean, I love the resurgence of it. I would love The Last Dragon to get a proper 4K release.
Yes.
I don't know if that'll ever happen. But it's so interesting because I just to get a little personal, the reason why these movies mean so much, and especially like Blaxploitation and Black Belt Jones and the Black Dragon Ron Van Cleef stuff, I grew up in leg braces. So I couldn't do anything. And when I watched martial arts films, like that's what I wanted to do. And why I gravitated to probably something like Black Belt Jones or the Black Dragon or that stuff is when you're out in public and you're walking around these leg braces, people look at you different just because you look different.
What are y'all staring at? Haven't you ever seen a little boy with braces on his legs before?
And all of a sudden I related to blaxploitation cinema because I'm like, well, they're fighting this whole image representation, et cetera. And I'm just, some 50-year-old white guy right now, but growing up, I had more in common with all the characters and everything that were in those films because I had one friend, Kevin, and we were training to be ninjas in the background or the backyard, stuff like that. But everywhere I went in leg braces, like kids wouldn't play with me because they thought I would catch whatever disease I had.
Right.
Oh, man.
And so it became more relatable. So movies like this, like I totally understand why in 1985 this comes out, or films like Action Jackson or Passenger. I mean, there's people I don't think they discredit, but they forget about this type of cinema that was coming up in the 80s that actually did more, I think, for representation than anything that you see in 2022.
I guess when Black Panther comes out, people are like, oh, this is representation. You're like, well, I mean, we had it in the 80s too. I mean, The Last Dragon, the bad guy would be like third on the call sheet, but the first two people are, African-American actors with one name.
Right. I guess within the genre, but it shows how important that is. Movies like that are, for different generations. And
well, I want to talk a little bit about the unspoken legend of Bruce Leroy, which I think is what has to set this movie into motion, because we get our introduction of one of the greatest villains to ever grace the screen.
Am I the meanest?
Sure enough.
Am I the prettiest?
Sure enough.
Am I the baddest mofo low down around this town?
Sure enough.
I know somebody who can beat you, Bruce Leroy, which the play on that name is gold. It's absolutely amazing.
Fantastic.
I mean, it's intentional, obviously.
Yeah,
Right.
definitely.
Intent certainly matters.
But he's, obviously known in the community as this guy who does karate and whatnot. But there's this legend that he catches bullets with his teeth. So we're introduced to him in this legend, and it's just kind of like thrown in there. We haven't seen him do these things that Shownuff's talking about other than catching an arrow, which is a whole different story compared to catching a bullet with your teeth. Why is there a guy trying to be a shogun of Harlem? Like, there's so much comedy to what's happening here.
Shogun of Harlem.
Watching it as an adult, but I'm eating it up. 5-year-old Josh is just eating this shit up. I think it's great.
Well, these people are obviously watching the movies, right? They're watching the Bruce Lee movies, and they're basically obsessed with them. I mean, everyone's at the theater watching these movies.
You have been to the movies again, I see.
You can tell this is all influential to him and the entire community.
Oh no.
Yeah, you cannot underestimate, like, Bruce Lee, as much as he did in films and stuff like that. I mean, he had dojos.
Yeah.
And you had Brad, what, Five Fingers of Death, and trying to think of like the classic ones, Five Deadly Venoms, all of this stuff coming from Shaw Brothers that were in the US that were driving people into, karate schools, Wing Chun schools, stuff like that in the 70s. In the 80s, it was Karate Kid. I mean, think about how many kids enrolled for karate after 84.
Oh, right. Right.
Yeah. So again, this movie captures, if you want to talk about historical accuracy, the movie does kind of capture this fascination that you get this zeitgeist happen of when lightning strikes, everybody follows it, and it just becomes part of that community, right? And especially younger age kids are just chasing it.
But could you imagine driving the streets of New York and seeing Sho and his gang walking around?
I would sign up immediately, man.
But the man is like 6'8". Like, it's like unmissable.
Jeez. And he's got stock in fucking elbow pads or shoulder pads.
Shoulder pads, man. He's
They're
like
football
ready.
shoulder pads. Yeah.
Yeah.
His look
He's
is
been down to the
fantastic.
Rydell store, picking up a new pair of shoulder pads.
The Rydell.
Jesus Christ.
And it's Julius Carry's performance. Like, he brings it to this performance, dude. He's putting everything in it. Even for the fact that he knew no martial arts, he's still like, even though you can tell he doesn't know what he's doing in some of these fight scenes, I love every second this dude's on screen in this movie.
Dude, I mean, he's got some kind of skill, because when he's fighting this one guy up on the stage, he's like breaking his ankle and then he's biting his freaking ankle.
He's like, you will never use this foot again.
I mean, you could argue he's not in the movie enough.
Oh, I agree with that.
Just talking about the casting of that, so much of what he's doing, I think, requires some comedic ability. I'm trying to imagine this guy as like a stoic martial arts guy, and I don't think it would be as effective. I'd rather him be funny,
right,
and not be the greatest martial artist than the other way around, you know?
Oh, that's what I said. I think I would have just rather seen Eddie Murphy do it.
See, I got to disagree. Where Eddie, what Julius Carey does, I think. Allow me.
You're breaking Troy's brain right now.
Yeah, you are. Eddie Murphy will go just all into comedy. He will go do it. Julius Carey is still intimidating. Eddie Murphy isn't. So what Julius Carey does is he understands his physical presence.
Yeah.
And so where he can be over the top, he knows where to interchange the comedy with that intimidation.
Get him, girls. Maybe you can get a rise out of this limp wimp.
I don't think, as much as I love Eddie Murphy, and dude, I just watched The Golden Child, and Eddie Murphy's doing Kung Fu in The Golden Child, right?
Yep.
So
I was going to mention The Golden Child at some point here. Yeah.
And I love The Golden Child, but the problem is, as much as I do like Eddie Murphy, Eddie Murphy too.
I like Eddie in the 80s.
Yes, in the 80s.
Yeah, 80s Eddie. Yeah.
But what Julius Carey does is
No love for Daddy Daycare.
No. What Julius Carey does is so brilliant is he brings the intimidation and the scariness in with that over the top like approach to it. Eddie Murphy can't do that. Eddie Murphy's not good enough for that. Julius Carey is
I
fantastic.
completely agree with you, Troy. Like, there's that line where he's talking to Leroy and he's like, the wassa. Like, I don't see Eddie Murphy delivering that line the same way as Julius Carey does in this movie. And just, he brings the intimidation. And that's what I really love about him in this.
I also like that he's not in it for the money.
True.
Oh, yeah.
True.
Like, he literally just wants to prove that he's the toughest in the neighborhood.
He's the master. He wants to prove he's the master.
Keep your money. You just get that sucker to the designated place.
How does he fund his group? If he's not, I maybe they do steal money, but when it comes to Leroy, it's not about the money. Maybe that's
a good question. They have a sweet van too.
Yeah, they do have a sweet van.
They just raided a school and stole all the football gear, and that's why they dress the way they dress. They already had the karate gis and everything. They just put the pads underneath.
But where'd they get that sweet van? That van is awesome.
Yeah, I like where Eric's head is. Like, let's talk about the economic standpoint of The Last Dragon.
Thank you.
Well, Brad, you are a money man, so.
Yeah, that's me.
But there's some great shit that happens in this theater scene. I love when that one guy kicks Shown Up and he's like, hi-ya! Like, it's just so not where it should be. Like, it seems so out of place. But this whole fight and his gang. Let's talk about Shown Up's gang a little bit. You got great value Cyndi Lauper in there.
No, but Angela, her character was modeled off of Cyndi Lauper. So,
well, I think Show's female with the blonde hair looks a lot more like Cyndi Lauper than what's her name,
Angela.
Faith Prince. Well, Faith Prince is the actress's name.
Well, you're wrong, Josh.
Yeah, I know.
Troy's right. You're wrong. Shut up, bitch.
Well, since you bring up Angela, let's go ahead and talk about Eddie Arcadian, the actor who's in Jason's favorite Stephen King movie as his favorite Bible salesman.
I never heard no talk like that when I was a boy.
Maximum Overdrive?
Yeah, he's in Maximum Overdrive. He plays the Bible salesman.
He's also in Barton Fink, which is a much better movie, but whatever.
Depends on who you ask, Brad.
I know.
Yeah, when he popped up, I went, "Oh, it's the Bible salesman." Yes.
But this whole plot with him and Angela trying to get her song played on Laura Charles's TV show.
She's a video rock queen, but I, Eddie Arcadian, am the video game king. She's got the audience, but I got the vision. That's a match made in heaven.
I mean, it's been an hour. We haven't mentioned Vanity at all. I'm a little bit disappointed.
Oh, God, my 80s crush right there, man. Jesus.
Dude, watching this movie again, I was like, holy shit. I remember I used to have a thing for Vanity. Like, this woman is gorgeous.
And it is hot.
Beautiful.
Gorgeous.
I don't know. Vanity was okay. I mean, I like Sheila E.
Shut your mouth, Jason.
Sheila E, man. We're going to talk anything related to Prince. I like me some Sheila E.
No, well, it's funny you say Prince because she was in this movie because she left Purple Rain and Apollonia took over.
Yeah, see, I like me some Apollonia too.
Yeah, I agree with you on Sheila E. But man, Vanity, oh my gosh,
Yeah.
This
was the first movie I saw Vanity in, and then I saw Action Jackson a little later, which I mean, it came out a couple of years after this.
Never Too Young to Die.
I've never seen Never Too Young to Die.
Oh,
but it's a movie that may pop up on For New Eyes Only, my James Bond retrospective podcast that I do with our buddy Nathan. So we may talk about that movie on our show one time, sometime in the future. So, but yeah, she's in that as well. I'm looking forward to watching that one. It looks like some 80s gold.
Oh, it's awesome.
Well,
I mean,
I want to touch on something about right here in this part of the movie we're about to talk about.
Touch on it.
All right, we get Laura, aka Vanity, show up. All right, when I'm watching this movie, first time watch, okay, we saw this little bit of kung fu, whatever, and then we kick into a full-length DeBarge video in the middle of a movie. And I remember the DeBarge song. I mean, I'm gonna listen to the fuck out of that shit.
This movie is why that song is fucking popular, bro.
Yeah. But the thing is like I'm supposed to be watching a
Rhythm of
kung
the
fu
Night.
movie.
Like, it's not just some song; it's Rhythm of the Night. Come on.
Yeah, it's Rhythm of the Night. Yeah, but the thing is like I know it's the Barry Gordy thing, and that's probably some of the problems I kind of had with the movie. Is like I want to watch a kung fu movie, not a music video movie.
So this is why I love the film. You can make the case the movie is as much a musical as it is a kung fu film.
Yeah,
yeah. Sometimes I think it's more musical than kung fu.
And I agree with you. I actually think that's one of its strengths. Like when you call it Barry Gordy's The Last Dragon, you're basically saying this is kung fu Motown.
Yep.
So I totally get where that will throw you off, but I think if you kind of understand just in the title and who's attached to it and everything else, it's a musical. I mean, and I would also propose that kung fu movies and musicals probably have more in common than any other genre. Like if you were to watch Singing in the Rain and Jackie Chan's Drunken Master 2, the fluidity and the pacing and the fights versus the dance sequences, they're the same movie.
Well,
almost.
I mean, what are fight scenes than violent dance scenes? Like, yeah, like
it's choreographed violence.
That's interesting. That's an interesting take there. And what are you laughing at?
So, Eric, next time I want you to watch Grease or something, just imagine they're doing kung fu and they're dancing around.
It's a better movie that way.
I'm not big on musicals.
Shut up, Brad. It is not.
Team Eric on that.
I Grease was one that I watched. That one I kind of have a soft spot for, but overall, I usually skip musicals these days. There's a few I like, but yeah, like you said, it all kind of revolves around this TV show or like music show that she's got. I forget what it's called.
Well, Seventh Heaven, the song is just about having a hard dick and her writing it. I mean, if you listen to the lyrics, I mean,
Vanity.
I will say, the song Seventh Heaven did get on my nerves a little bit. I'm not too crazy about the song Seventh Heaven.
Yeah, I wasn't a fan.
Shut up. All right. Don't say anything negative about Vanity.
It's not
Troy,
Vanity's fault.
Is this what you do when you listen to our show, like at home? You just like, shut up. Oh, God damn it. Shut up.
Yes. I'll get a text from Troy and he'll be like, can you believe that Josh said this? Like, dude,
I do. I text Brad. Dude, there was a flurry of texts over the last episode with Tom Cruise comments. I had to pull off the side of the road and just start texting Brad. I'm like, I'm so angry.
I have to agree because it's played in contrast to Angela's song, which is supposed to be bad. So they have Laura's song, which is supposed to be good, and Angela's song, which is supposed to be bad. And I'm like, I don't know. They're both they're fine. I don't know that one's way better than the other one.
I will counter with this. Here's a dramatic reading of one of the verses of Seventh Heaven. Yes, my love's inside. My love stands right on top. Hop off the elevator. How's the incinerator? Heaven never burned an angel on fire.
That's
poetry.
That's poetry.
Yeah, that's true. I like it better in spoken word.
Yeah, spoken word is way better than the actual music.
Once you come inside, I know you will love my ride.
No way. Oh.
Look, you have to understand what Vanity was known for. Like this was a departure for her because she was doing She's a recording artist, and she was prancing around in lingerie, singing these really nasty songs. This is actually toned down for her.
I did know. Yeah, I did know that she kind of cleaned up her act a little bit.
Yeah, she became a born again Christian.
Oh yeah, she has denounced the whole vanity thing.
Well, I mean, she passed, but she had to. I mean, obviously because of her addictions and everything else, she had a rough life, and she got to the point where I think it was a kidney transplant or something of that nature. I can't remember.
Yeah.
That's when she became a born again Christian, but. You know, her Prince days and leading to this, I mean, she was super provocative. So The Last Dragon was a very tame version of Vanity.
Yeah. And I remember like her and Action Jackson, she was like a drug addict and was taking off her clothes throughout that whole movie. Like it was a completely different Vanity than what's in this movie.
Oh my God. If you guys review Action Jackson, I'm back, man. I love that film so much.
It's been a long time, but I remember liking that movie a lot as a kid. I mean, Craig T. Nelson as a villain. I've never seen Craig T. Nelson as a villain other than that movie. But yeah, you get the abduction of Laura, or the attempted abduction of Laura here.
I would not do that if I were you.
I feel like Ty-Mac uses the a little too much. I mean, you guys watch way more karate and kung fu movies than I do, so you're used to it. But it was getting a little out of hand for me this time. I was like, do you really, do I need the commentary while you're fighting?
I have a question for the experts here. To me, that's like the Bruce Lee thing. Do other guys do that the way that he does? Or is this every time we're getting all that in this movie, that's all just referencing Bruce Lee directly, right?
You guys didn't realize you were coming on for an educational course on kung fu movies, did you?
This is Kung Fu 101.
Imagine us trying to talk about this without them here to like straighten us out. But seriously, like that's just a Bruce Lee thing, right?
Well, I mean, if you see anything of like the Shaw Brothers, it's always that. The sound makes it. Swords make weird sounds. Weapons always make weird sounds, and the guys are always making noises. It's just.
Well, I know noises, but like, is this?
Yes.
Bruce Lee had his
specific
own
Bruce Lee sound.
I think the Bruce Lee thing gets picked up on the most because if you take a step back and go kung fu films, not the sub genres of but just kung fu films, Bruce Lee comes up the most, right? Because you think about it as international stardom. And I think everybody references that. But to Brad's point, if you think about the Shaw Brother films, even if you think about the blaxploitation films, Jim Kelly, Ron Van Cleef, etc., that's just like part of the choreography. And it actually, so without getting technical, it actually is part of the methodology of martial arts. So the yelling and stuff like that, like when I would teach China or
sure, like a key-op or something, right?
Well, yeah,
very
think
much
about it
so.
like in the context of like tennis.
Yeah.
You don't have to scream in tennis, but it gives you a little.
Yes, that's not what I'm asking about. I'm familiar with that. I'm talking specifically about the like that kind of stuff.
But that's part of.
Okay, that's part of it too. Then that's part of channeling your energy and whatnot.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking about breath and everything else. So
you're almost there. You're almost a master now, Eric.
Yeah, you're pretty close.
Dude,
I feel like when I did that, I almost felt like I was doing something wrong, like inappropriate.
No.
You started to glow.
Eric, let me see your hands. Let me see your hands, Eric.
See your hands.
Oh, dude, you're starting.
Oh my god!
You're starting to glow.
Holy shit! Okay,
no, Bruce Lee just had a style when he did it that I think was the best. But if you go back to some of the Shaw Brothers stuff, it's not uncommon to see that stuff. It's just Bruce Lee.
That's mostly what I'm familiar with is Bruce Lee.
Yeah,
so.
I mean, and as are most people. I mean, Enter the Dragon.
Right.
Everyone that's seen the Kung Fu film has probably seen Enter the Dragon first, and then everything else after that.
Yeah,
right.
Well, I mean, you're talking about Leroy's noises. What's his buddy and his student Johnny? Johnny does it way more.
If he was going to complain about anybody, I thought he complained about Johnny.
Oh yeah, I would say Johnny's got
here's what I have to say about Johnny Yu. I call him Johnny Ralphio because I can just imagine Jean Ralphio from Parks and Rec being that character.
I mastered the art of fighting without knowing how to fight.
You see, my resume might not actually be accurate, right? So I have no idea what you're talking about.
You know, I'm gonna go over here and fight kung fu for a little bit. I'll see you later. Like, I love Johnny though. I think he's hilarious. But
what?
Johnny is fantastic, man.
Brad said what?
How about something in a medium-sized Oriental?
Oh, no thanks. I'm not Jewish.
What the hell was that joke? But no, I'm not Jewish.
I laugh every time.
Yeah, like I don't.
So
yeah.
good. I know, but it's so random. It's hilarious.
Yeah, it is. I wanted to ask though, do you think Batman got his disappearing act from Bruce Leroy here?
Yes, Christopher Nolan specifically stole it from.
No, his name is Christopher Stolen.
Right.
Oh, yes.
That's what we call him here.
I think I heard it on the
He
comics
pulls the
there.
Batman disappearing act a couple of times in this.
Well, see, Batman is a ninja, so
yeah, he is.
I think it
yes.
really comes from ninja before Batman. Batman is a ninja.
Okay.
He's part of the League of Shadows, which are ninjas.
Yeah.
So yeah,
True.
Batman is a ninja.
So Show manages to find Leroy's dojo, which again, like he was working with his master in the beginning and now he's got his own dojo. I guess that's a common thing.
It is.
If Leroy is such an easy person to find by going to his dojo, like it kind of cancels out the whole destroying his family's restaurant. But I guess he's just trying to antagonize the shit out of this kid.
And it's funny that Leroy is wearing the jumpsuit. When he shows up, I'm like, okay, yeah, there's Blue. Now that's Bruce Leroy. When he shows up in there, that's Bruce.
Tarantino actually got it from The Last Dragon, not Game of Death.
Yeah.
Ah, is that a fact? I mean, I would have a problem believing that, honestly.
Actually, with Tarantino, yeah, I'm kind of with Josh. He might have like, hey, I like both of those movies. Whatever.
One of my favorite lines as he's antagonizing Leroy here is when he sticks the girls on him.
Love to peel this banana.
Oh, that's the Cyndi Lauper one, right?
Yes.
That is a good line.
But this is where you get the iconic line that Troy has brought up a couple of times.
Kiss my Converse.
So the red gi with the Converse is a great look.
He's
too.
still got the shoulder pads
Yeah,
in.
he always has shoulder pads. Always.
Yeah, I like all his costume stuff.
He loves tigers. I gotta say, he's got the tiger skin drapery in the beginning. He's got tigers on his gi at the end.
Got the top knot. He's good.
Love it. His look is fantastic. It
is
so iconic.
It is.
But well, we've already talked about Johnny a little bit here. But what do we think of Johnny's theory of not fighting to win a fight? I thought this was pretty fucking funny.
I mean, in Enter the Dragon, Bruce Lee says fighting without fighting.
It is cool. It's that traditional kung fu fortune cookie spiritualism kind of played out for laughs, and Johnny sells it. Like he is such a fun character because you see the progression, and then all of a sudden he becomes a badass at the end of the film.
Right.
And it's so much fun to watch it because him discovering that he's a badass is just as enjoyable as all the comedic elements that he's bringing. You know, when
Stream being Rick James looking fool. Beast, kill him.
I wonder, like, I kind of wonder if Show actually gave the order to kill somebody, if these idiots would actually do it. Like, it seems like they're behind him that wholeheartedly.
Well, they throw that kid in that pile of rubbish later, and he could have died from head trauma when his noggin hit that.
Let's talk about Richie a little bit. Leroy's brother here. He was rough. I like him by the end of this movie, but he's rough for the majority of it.
That's funny. I liked Richie start to finish.
I did too.
Are you a little brother? Are you the little, like
me?
Yeah.
No, I don't. I'm an only child. I don't.
Okay, well,
I never had to deal with a younger brother.
I feel like if you like Richie, like you're the youngest child, which I am the youngest, but I don't like Richie very much.
I can't help it if he's weird. You weird, man. Really weird.
Well, that doesn't fit with your theory.
Yeah, I know it doesn't. I completely broke
what?
my theory as I finished my sentence.
Yeah, I'm the oldest of my family, and I'm not a very big Richie fan either. So, but I mean, I like him by the end of the movie. I think he kind of earns his place at the end. But
I think he's got a ton of charisma, and like he's kind of. I'm just thinking this kid is kind of chewing up the scenery, you know, like he doesn't feel like a child actor. He's really sharp.
I ain't taking you nowhere. You might embarrass me. You're too weird.
It's just hard to watch when he's like trying to teach his brother how to be black. It's kind of, it's weird to watch that, but
he starts to kind of teach him about like the birds and the bees.
The birds and the
bit.
bees.
Yeah,
he has to teach him.
Painting with a brush, man.
Yeah. I had this note, and I'm afraid to say it.
Oh,
I'm afraid to say it because we've got some fans here. But I had a note.
We're all friends here. It's fine. We're all friends here.
I was asking myself, is Leroy like on the spectrum somehow? Like he is socially incompetent entirely. He's like naive, almost childlike. I almost felt uncomfortable when Laura was like getting onto him, because I'm just like, Leroy's not ready for you, Laura. Like Leroy,
yeah.
You know what? I think, what's his name? Richie. I think Richie was right. Like Leroy wouldn't know what to do in this situation. He's going to be overwhelmed.
Cause ain't no woman like that gonna hold still while you figure it out.
He just feels like kind of special in a way, you know, like
That's what we called them in the 80s. We said they were just special.
I don't know what to say to that.
He might not be wrong.
No, he's so wrong. Oh my God.
there are times where he like kind of reminds me of Forrest Gump, like in the sense of like he can do all these amazing things, but he can't stay with a basic conversation when people are trying to talk to him or tell him about something. He's just so like, that's the writing and the effort to make him like a fish out of water or whatever. But
yeah, I would look at it this way. So I don't think that at all. Only because he's so immersed in Chinese culture that it's awkward for him to be around like a New York culture, right?
Right.
And then later on, you get these three guys who are running a fortune cookie factory that are trying to kind of adapt to the African, and they're just as awkward, like when they're trying to learn craps and
right. Yeah.
I think it's intentional. Like it's intentional to kind of say you adapt to this culture immersion to the point where you feel out of place to your surroundings in society, not special per se or on the spectrum.
Well, that's what's weird about the breakfast scene where he comes in and has breakfast with the family is he seems like he's not part of that family. It's this whole culture immersion that he does. That's like, did this guy really forget where he came from? Like, it just seems really weird to me.
I get the cultural immersion thing. I get that. There are just moments for me in this that I guess maybe I feel like they push it a little further than they should, or maybe it's something with the performance, or maybe it's just a few of the lines. I wish I had written down a more specific note.
I think it comes through when they had made the decision of saying, okay, you're not using contractions, right? And they gave him a very specific set of instructions for a script. I can see where that sounds extremely awkward, but they play up this whole fish out of water thing with Leroy's character from the beginning to the end, right? And even towards the end, he's still kind of a fish out of a water, but all of a sudden his environment starts to adapt to him.
Yeah.
Like the cool thing about this film is he starts out just being just the odd duck. But even when you get to the end and the end credits and everybody is starting to dress like Leroy and everybody else, you see how much he changed his environment just by the way he's acting. So
rather than changing himself,
it's one of those rare films where you talk about the hero's journey. The hero's journey isn't so much about, it's about him having a discovery of himself. But what's really interesting is how much he kind of infects the environment around him and how they adapt to his immersion.
Is this a movie about puberty? Does he go through puberty basically in the course of this film?
I think you could say that. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Man, y'all are going like a deep dive here. I was just gonna note that his little sister was Rudy from the Cosby Show.
Yes.
So when I saw that, I went, fucking Rudy.
But there's even a deep dive there because they don't have a name for the girl. They call her three different names. And Richie's like, I wish I would decide on a name for this girl.
2 names, and he calls them, I think he calls her like Little Blossom or Lotus Blossom or something.
But now let's talk about the second abduction of Laura here. And they finally make her watch Angela's music video. Now, one thing they haven't talked about yet that I want to touch on here because it's awesome is the tank that they have in Eddie Arkadian's little room here. I love this tank. I love the fact that they don't explain anything about it. It's just
what the fuck is in it?
It could be piranha.
I just
it could
assumed
be
it was a
shark.
piranha tank.
Yeah, that's what I was assuming.
That's all I could think was piranhas. Yeah.
Did anyone like growing up ever fear like I had a fear of piranhas and quicksand from like movies? Yeah,
Who
it
did?
was like
Especially if you watch the movie Piranha, you never want to go swimming in the water ever again.
Well, there was a little movie called Jaws that scared people so much they didn't want to go in the water. Does anybody remember that movie?
No. What are you talking about?
Okay.
Why do you like that movie?
I mean, it's okay.
You should tell us how you like it.
It was fun. Well, when he mentioned quicksand, I'm thinking of the movie Beastmaster. That's what made me scared of quicksand. Was Beastmaster,
or Princess Bride? Is it quicksand
or slow sand?
What's the difference between slow sand and quicksand?
One's faster.
Yeah, quicksand's faster, obviously. But
yeah, there's a meme out there where somebody was like, "I thought quicksand was going to be a bigger part of my life as an adult."
Yes, exactly.
Especially growing up in the 80s.
Yeah. But this is where Bruce Leroy bust in his ninja outfit, and I was like, "Holy shit! There's a ninja in this movie! I love this movie!" When I was 5 years old, and it's kind of a mediocre fight in here, honestly.
Yeah.
Like it's
He's got ninja stars. That's all that matters.
Yeah,
he got ninja stars.
And then he rips his thing off, and you realize that it's Leroy. But my favorite part's when he shoves his head in that fucking tank, because again, like I would expect in the 80s they love to explain things away to us. But the fact that they never tell us what this thing is in this tank is probably one of my favorite parts of this movie.
Yeah, it's a great effect that it's always sitting there in the background, and how they use it for comedic effect. And then Leroy kind of shoves his head in there, and now he's like, okay, get rid of this thing.
And the thing is Leroy doesn't even really know what's in the tank. Like, he's been in this room for 5 minutes maybe, and he sees a tank and he decides to shove his head in it, not knowing what's in it. It's just kind of this weird, like, sort of link of situations in this fight that is just like, how does this make any sense? I don't know, but I love it.
Yeah, the part that I was trying to, like you said, you when the Rock earlier threw the shit in the tank, it was immediately whatever ate it, blah blah blah. But Leroy shoves his face in the water and pulls it back out, and there's nothing happens to him.
Well, he's got a little scratch on his nose.
Yeah, just,
you can
yeah,
say
just, I'm like, but that's the thing. In a normal movie, he would have. You're drowning the bad guy. You would have kept his head in the water.
I think.
Come on.
But Leroy's not trying to kill him.
Right. I think Leroy just wanted to scare him.
Right.
Well, that was.
Hold on.
Well,
whoa.
Sorry, with so many people, I know I keep interrupting people, and I'm very sorry. I'm trying to get a point in. I don't totally understand why Leroy wouldn't fight in the dojo especially when they start grabbing some of his students. But he's happy to just go buck wild when Laura gets
his students aren't there,
kidnapped.
Well,
so he doesn't want to fight in front of his students.
That's what I was going to say. Yeah, he's not fighting in front of the students. He's trying to teach them a lesson.
So
and
he's
one
a
of them is
hypocrite.
vanity too. So you would fight for vanity.
Yeah, sure, but yeah, I guess I was trying to understand at what point is it okay to fight, according to Leroy.
So in comparison to those two scenes, I don't think Leroy ever wants to fight. Like he's the reluctant hero. He doesn't want to do it.
Right.
But,
I get that.
Yeah. With his students there and him as a teacher, he's going to show them like it's not worth it. Right. But the whole mask, like him running in masked, was to kind of be like, okay, I'm going to go in, do my thing.
Yeah.
There's no students around, so he can be as brutal or whatever he wants to. But I think the differentiation between that is, I mean, he's trying to be that martial arts instructor, and he's trying to get to that master leadership where it's like, hey, I'm going to show these guys that you're going to have to take a beating. And the last thing you want to do is throw down with these guys. Like, you want to avoid that at all costs. And so he's trying to demonstrate that.
Sometimes it is hard to live the way of the wise.
Huh?
All right, Troy, I accept that answer. Good one.
You better take it while you can.
Good one.
Take it.
Well, he's also seeking out this medallion that he lost, and he thinks that Laura may have this. So not only is she being kidnapped, she may have this key to what he's looking for. So he wants to save her. He wants to find his medallion. There's a lot going on with that aspect of it. I love when
I think he wants the medallion more than her, honestly.
Oh, yeah.
He does.
Yeah, absolutely.
Dude, we're not to the scene yet. I'll talk about it when we get there. But I love her response when they show her Angela's video, though. And there's one specific point. I don't remember what Angela says in the song, but Vanity just starts laughing and puts her head down. And I was like, yeah, that's about probably the response I would have to this as well.
I don't know. Is Dirty Boy a better song than Seventh Heaven or whatever the hell that song's called?
Seventh Heaven.
Yeah,
because that's the question. I don't know. I
almost kind of wonder, are Angie's songs better or worse than Laura's? Because hers are not great either.
As much as I'm not a fan of Seventh Heaven, I think I'd rather listen to Seventh Heaven than this one.
Man.
Is what is Arcadian? Where does he get his money? Where does he get his funding?
Arcades.
Is it really arcades?
Yes.
Yes.
It says that.
Did you watch the movie?
Thank you, Jason.
His name is Eddie Arcadian.
I know what his name is. I didn't realize that he literally owned arcades. Okay, so
there's two scenes. He's handing out quarters.
Yeah, he hands the girls quarters.
Okay, I was wondering about the quarters. I was like, why is he handing out quarters? Is he just cheap? Okay. I get it now. I somehow missed that.
When he's hiring goons later, he's hiring his goons in an arcade.
I didn't realize that was an arcade. I thought it was just like a goddamn.
Eric didn't watch this fucking movie.
He watches. He's lying.
I should have watched this movie, I guess.
Yeah. He got the Cliff Notes right there. That's it.
So he wants to be like a promoter, like he's a fight promoter with Rock.
He's an entrepreneur.
Yeah, he's looking for like to hit
He's trying to make an easy buck. He wants to get big and famous, but the easiest way possible.
He's not content being wealthy with his arcade empire. He wants more.
Yeah. Right. I mean, as much as when Angela is introduced in this movie, I find her like a nothing character until it kind of dawns on her that he's riding on her coattails.
You're nothing but a misguided midget asshole with dreams of ruling the world. And also getting by on my tits.
Such a great line where she puts him in his place.
Yeah.
And say what you will about her, as goofy she is with the songs and stuff like that in a high-pitched voice. When that scene comes out, it's kind of powerful. Like it comes out.
I agree.
She's so good when she delivers it and then is like, yeah, I'm going back to dental school. I love it. I love it.
Yeah, she nails him, and you turn this character that was you assume is just this empty, like silly character, and she actually is one of the more intelligent characters in the film.
She went from vapid to be like super I don't know, poignant in her remarks. You're like,
she's very introspective about the situation she's in. It's obviously by design because the first introduction we get to her is her on her headphones. And then when Eddie's talking to her and her response to him is just like, oh yeah. Like she just seems so goofy and out of it and a nothing character. But yeah, when you reach that scene, I'm like, holy shit, she's actually got some brains. Like, she's not as stupid as they're making her out to be in this movie.
Even there and in the later scene when she goes and meets up with Johnny.
Yeah.
You're like, wow, okay.
They're always flipping stereotypes in this film, which is what's amazing about it.
All right, we're gonna talk about the pizza parlor here.
These poor people have no idea what's going on. This guy just comes in and terrorizes them. I feel so bad for the Greens here.
Yeah, I wanted to see the mom and Show Enough go at it because she's
the mom's badass.
Yeah,
that's where
she's hitting everybody with pizza dough from across the room.
I love when she hits that one guy in the face and he just crushes the fucking. No, I think her and Show would have been a nice fight. Like that's the showdown I would have liked to have seen at the end of this movie is Mrs. Green and Show Enough.
Pizza dough nunchucks. She should have started slinging.
Oh yeah, that's perfect.
That would have been perfect.
Yes,
but it didn't happen.
Breadsticks.
Well, Leroy Senior was holding her back. He's trying like making sure she doesn't fight, but I think she would have thrown down. And I think that's where Bruce Leroy gets like his fighting spirit, man.
And honestly, we were talking about Timac earlier and how, he feels like obviously he's not an actor, but it's this scene when he shows up after they've terrorized their restaurant and you can tell he's upset and that little tear that trickles down his face. That's like his golden moment of the movie for me. Like, I think he really Timac sells that scene right there. It's not Leroy at that point. Like, I think he's doing a great job in that scene.
This is where some of the pacifism methodology stuff or whatever like is backfiring. It always seems to backfire in movies when a character wants to be a pacifist, and then just like all this bad shit happens because they just won't fight the bad guy, you know, like just kick his ass and be done with it.
What good is that kung fu job if you can't even use it? Coward.
I mean, I know this is based in you know, philosophy and deeper things than and outside of this film, but it comes up a lot in movies that ultimately end in violence anyway, right?
Yeah.
True.
Like ultimately, we know we're gonna fight, so let's just cut.
Yeah,
to the chase.
like it's just like, why do we have to destroy the pizza place before we fight? Just fight before that. You could prevent it.
You wouldn't have a
preemptive
movie.
strike.
It's the plot, right?
It's Karate Kid. It's Karate Kid. Mr. Miyagi's like, don't fight. Don't fight.
Yeah.
And then what do they have? Let's enter a tournament and fight.
Yeah.
So, hello.
Well, at least they did it in tournament space. It wasn't a
It
street
don't matter. You don't fight.
Well,
That's
before-
what Leroy should have done. Let's spar. Hey, Shonuff, we're in a, you know, we're in a thing. Let's spar. We can spar in an organized fashion.
So at the end of this movie, do you think there's a cut scene where Leroy and Sho have a Rocky and Apollo moment?
Want to ring the bell?
All right. Ding, ding.
Like an after credit scene where they're eating pizza in the destroyed pizza place.
Let's go have shawarma.
I don't think that would fall into the Shonuff character. Yeah. I mean,
well,
yeah, they can't spar. Shogun fights to the death. So yeah, there is no sparring.
Well, we've talked about some of the actors in this movie. Let's talk about some more of the actors in this movie. It's time for Almost Famous.
I know that, dude.
I don't know them. I know her.
Haven't you ever heard of that guy? That guy who was in that movie that was out last year?
I'm sort of famous for being almost famous.
So I'm going to throw it over to the Not a Bomb Boys to start off Almost Famous tonight, because I know they're probably going to pull some weird stuff out of their socks here. So
well, we've mentioned a few, but I was going to start off with Eddie Reyes Jr.
Yes,
who goes on to make fun of a fat girl in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2 and all sorts of movies. So yeah.
But when I do, I'll dream of something a little thinner.
You know, body shaming. But anyway, so Ernie Reyes Jr. I'll start off with him.
Red Sonja, dude. You
Came out the same year.
Red Sonja.
Yep.
Yeah, Red Sonja, TMNT 2, Surf Ninjas.
Sidekicks.
Yep. One of my favorites, though, is a sequence that he is just like smacking the rock around in the rundown.
Oh,
yes.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That whole, that's great.
I am not your enemy.
Yeah. So his dad was one of the fight choreographers
Ernie
on
Reyes Sr.
Yes. But yeah, that would definitely be my pick. I mean, we talked about Chaz Palminteri, just doesn't really have, he ends up getting stuck in a car window because, you know, Bruce Leroy
I mean, you can barely see his face, and he's got a mustache and a beard, so it was hard to recognize him. But yeah, I mean, The Usual Suspects, I mean, that would be the most notable thing I would throw up
Dude,
first.
he's been nominated for an Oscar.
Yeah. I mean,
the other thing, and he's not really famous. I mean, he passed, but when you talk about Richie Green, okay, so specifically Leo O'Brien, what's interesting about him is his brother was Master G from the Sugar Hill Gang.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, unfortunately, Leo O'Brien died. He was shot, and this is kind of sad. The hospital or whatever didn't stitch up the bullet wounds correctly, and he died in his sleep.
Oh man.
Yeah,
that sucks.
But yeah, there's
that is sad.
Yeah, there's a lot of I don't know. There's a lot of players in here. I mean, we talked about, you know, William H. Macy as JJ, stuff like that.
Well, that's the thing that struck me as weird watching it this time is just we've got a couple of people that have become big stars that are in very bit parts in this movie.
Yeah, I don't know if it was his first role, but it had to be one of his first, William H. Macy, because I mean, it's just he gets a couple of scenes and he's out the door. What's fascinating is like Brad's pick, Ernie Reyes Jr. I mean, you've got some people in here go on to be good choreographers and have these starring roles and stuff like that. And I mean, you've already talked about Jason, Rudy Huxtable.
Yeah.
So
Rudy.
Yeah, she doesn't really have a speaking line in it, but you see her face, you're like, oh my gosh, Cosby
That's
Show.
Rudy.
Yeah.
That was a great Bill Cosby, by the way.
Thank you. It's the only word. If I do a Bill Cosby, Jello pudding. I don't know. There's maybe, but it's pretty much only Rudy.
Sorry.
Well, I agree with Brad, but I was going to go with that one or Mike Starr played Rock.
Yeah, that dude's done a
Uncle
ton
Buck,
of movies.
Goodfellas, Bodyguard, Dumb and Dumber, Ed Wood. That guy has kind of a recognizable face.
Goodfellas, Blown Away.
The first thing I go to is that scene in Dumb and Dumber.
Want to hear the most annoying sound in the world?
I mean, that scene is like really one of the more iconic scenes in film history, I think, at this point. Like that scene is big time. Maybe not as big as the movie, but that scene alone. And yeah, that's what you think. That's what I think of when I see Mike Starr.
You know that I have gas.
Well, Jason, we've already brought him up, but I figured you would have at least thrown Christopher Murney in there for Maximum Overdrive.
Yeah, but that's kind of what I mainly know from is this. But I mean, we're talking about almost famous people that are kind of more recognizable, but maybe more A-list. That's why I went with Reyes or Starr.
Well, apparently Timac is still doing martial arts stuff today. I mean, he's stayed in the industry. He's been a stunt choreographer and whatnot for years. Unfortunately, I mean, I guess this movie didn't get him too far in the acting business, but
so it's interesting story with him. They wanted to do a sequel. Barry Gordy was all high on him. And I think Michael J. White talked about this at some point because they had a 30th anniversary panel, stuff like that.
Right.
And Timac did something that was unusual because this was a big hit, right? So Barry Gordy's like, hey, we're going to do a sequel, etc. And Timac came back and asked for more money. And then they pretty much shut him down. And that was that, right? So a lot of people, Michael J. White talks about the story all the time that Timac was kind of one of the first actors in the 80s who got some notoriety as a result of this, right? From Barry Gordy. I mean, he's a big industry leader. And the minute that he kind of recognized his worth, Timac recognized his worth and says, hey, I want to get a little bit more for the sequel, then he just gets booted out. So it was sort of a hard lesson for a lot of actors at that time period. Like you're a number, right? You're nothing. Yeah. So I think Timac got sort of a bitter taste about acting as a result of what happened to him with that approach to it. And he does bit parts here and there, but I mean, he is a martial artist first and foremost.
Timac also sounds like a Mortal Kombat character, possibly.
Yeah. Get over here. I don't think it would be right to not talk about Vanity a little bit. I mean, I would have imagined Vanity would have become a much bigger star than she did. But apparently I'm on the short list that thinks that. Do we really know why? I mean, was it because of drugs? Was it because of her born again Christian stuff? Like, was it just unfortunate that she didn't continue in?
I think it was cocaine.
Business?
I think it was
it was crack. I think.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
More
crack
specific,
cocaine.
okay.
We'll just get them both in there. Crack cocaine.
There you go. No, she had a very. I don't know. She had a crazy career, and she was hooked up with a lot of famous people too, right? I mean, Barry Gordy signed her for I think a 4-picture deal when she left Prince because that was a high-profile romance. But I think that lifestyle and the drugs, and then her health condition, really didn't give her the opportunity to concentrate on her career. Right. Now, you talk to kids from the 80s. I love Vanity. Like anytime I saw Vanity, it was like, oh, I want to see that because I had a crush on her. But I really think what happened to her, mentally and physically, and especially with the drugs and stuff, kind of derailed her career.
Yeah.
And Josh, you know that she was in the Highlander TV show for an episode, right?
Yeah, I know everything about Highlander.
Yeah, yes, you do.
All right, so we'll all just agree Ernie Reyes Jr. almost famous.
He fights his dad in this movie.
He does.
Oh.
I mean,
I would say Mike Starr.
Yeah, I would go either one.
Yeah.
Although in the spirit of the film, I guess Ernie Reyes Jr. would be a better choice.
Right.
Just in
Hey,
the spirit
he was
of
in a Ninja Turtle movie. He wins.
Yeah.
I
That's all
agree
I
with
gotta say.
But as far as like Forgetting that we're in the movie we're in, and that Ernie Reyes Jr. is a great choice. I think Mike Starr is a great like example of an almost famous character actor that's been in his list of TV and film together is one of the longest lists of like total actors that we look at for this.
Is he in like Linnea Quigley territory?
Who's that?
Oh my God, get the fuck off the show. Delete.
So it's okay, Eric.
Who's Lana Quigley again?
We're looking for a new co-host. You guys interested?
Yeah. Anybody need a job? Yeah.
She was the girl.
No one's gonna help me out here.
She was the girl who got killed on the deer antlers in Silent Night, Deadly Night.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I know you're talking about. No, his list is much better than that. Hers is very long, but he's got great movies. Sorry, I forgot her name.
Whoa. You're saying his movies are better than hers?
Was it Sorority Babes in the Slime Bowl-orama? That was
yeah, that was a fucking Oscar-nominated movie. And
I don't know how that's better than anything that guy did.
I guess, it depends who you ask.
Moving forward in the film here, we just talked about Vanity a little bit, but I'll throw it over to you, Troy. Like if Vanity walked into your dojo and said she wanted you to guard her body,
someone to guard my body.
Oh, all day. Yep.
All day long. Like, yeah, sign me up.
24/7. I'm there. Okay.
Cool.
Here's a little more supporting evidence of I just feel like Leroy is not picking up on what a normal person would understand. This isn't just Chinese culture, like.
How about it?
How about what?
Bodyguard. Hello?
Bodyguard.
This woman is he is oblivious of her.
I will share a story. So,
oh my God, here we go.
Yeah, we watched the scene.
Oh, let's sit back and listen to this one.
Yeah. We're watching this. My wife cracks up at this scene all the time because she comes in there and she's dropping the hits and everything. And he's so oblivious. And then there's even a moment at some point where she kisses him and he's like, I don't know. My wife always makes fun of that scene and me specifically because the night we met, I'm trying to we're in some party, it's really loud, and I pull her to the side to this room and I'm trying to talk to her and get her phone number. She jumps right on me and lifting arms and everything. I start pushing her off. I'm like, dude, I just want your phone number.
And I am no master.
You sure look like a master to me.
Dude, our first movie, we go out on a date and we see The Replacement Killers with Chow Yun-fat. Now, granted, it was the second time I'd seen it, but we go to the film and we're sitting right next to each other and here comes octopus lady with her lips and arms and stuff.
I'm with you on that. I'm here to see the movie.
I'm like, but if it would have been the first watch, if it would have been the first watch, Troy would have been like Leroy watching fucking Bruce Lee movies. Like, dude, that entire scene where he's watching Fist of Fury, she is trying to get on his dick so hard.
I know. And Tabitha makes fun of me all the time. She's like, that's just like when we saw your Chow Yun-fat movie.
No, listen, again. My theory here has some more legs.
You're calling me special, aren't you?
Not you, but she, I think, strategically uses Bruce Lee movies to get Leroy in the mood.
Oh, yeah. No, and my wife strategically agreed to go see a Chow Yun-fat movie because she thought we were going to make out in the back row.
But as Laura is her motor's running, she's ready to go, and Leroy, his motor's running, but for an entirely different reason.
Dude, there's a rule in our house: if there is a Jackie Chan movie playing, there is no sex or no making out. That's just
I understand that, and I'm with you. I watch movies.
I don't understand what's so unusual about this.
No. You're arguing a different point. I agree with you on watching a movie, but. To say that this
the fruit cast. My God.
Listen, Leroy is he's asexual, basically, until the end of the film. He's basically asexual until he gets his glow, which I guess is his sexual awakening.
Yeah.
Before that, I don't know. He does not act human. The the reason you're saying some of this behavior is coming from him being, engrossed in other cultures, but those cultures have sex.
I've never seen sex. Well, no, I've seen sex in
I've never seen sex.
Just one movie that.
She shows him in the Bruce Lee movie when Bruce Lee finally like gets with a lady and he's like, oh, I can get with a lady too.
Bruce Lee says it's okay to kiss lady.
He's looking for one particular kind of glow. Laura's looking for a completely different kind of glow.
And she's left frustrated at the end of that clip as well.
Thanks a lot, Bruce.
Hey, it was her bright idea.
Yeah.
Bruce Lee cock blocked her. That's all it was.
But that whole conversation with her before that, where he's talking to her in metaphor about
the art of making love, moves.
I would love to show you some moves, Leroy.
Oh, no. It's not for me.
You really got to get up on your game here.
Dude is on the spectrum.
Not on the spectrum. You can be oblivious and not be on the spectrum. Oh my God.
Too close to home for Troy.
It is.
Oh God.
Not on the spectrum, Eric.
I'm talking about. I'm just talking about Leroy.
I have a friend who happens to be in this film called The Last Dragon.
Does he have a paintbrush? But no, he gets this bright idea from Chinese Connection that he can disguise himself to get in to meet some dumb goy, who again, like, is just this character that we've heard about in the beginning. He's trying to get to him. You've got the guys that are guarding this fortune cookie factory that are like, nope, you can't see the master.
Hey, my man, what it look like?
He's pursuing this so much, but I love when he goes back to his sensei, and the sensei is like, and this is really just making a case for Eric's stuff here.
No, it's not.
But the master,
it kind of does.
But
I'm gaining some
getting
followers
nothing.
here.
He goes back to his sensei, and his sensei is like,
There is one place that you have not yet looked, and it is there, only there, that you shall find the master.
what are you doing? He's like, the one place you haven't looked is within you, and he still can't see that.
It's, hey, dude, how many people know their worth, man? How many people
defend your boy, Troy? Defend your boy.
This is one of the cool things about the film. I mean, what movie did we talk about here lately about self-worth and actualization? I mean, it's a cool concept. This movie, I'm not saying that The Last Dragon is a deep metaphor for anything, but what's cool is it touches on the surface of these things about understanding, like, you don't have what you need and what you have, and your self-worth is all inside. I mean, there's some really positive
Dumbo is an example.
Yeah.
Right?
But it's almost like his sensei is giving him these metaphors, and he's like, okay, I'm out of fucking metaphors, brah. Like,
but that's the great part about it, and it all comes back in this sort of vision when he's being dunked in the tank too, which makes
and I like that stuff. I should say that while I'm saying all this stuff about him being on the spectrum, I think I get shades of that from some of the performance and some of the stuff that happens. I don't think obviously that's intentional. And I do, I'm just reaching for, silliness, but I was thinking that at times, like, he just doesn't feel like a sexual being, and while she's like so interested in that, like, he just seems completely asexual until like you say, he has his awakening at the end, and then he's DTF after that.
Yeah, you don't fuck with Leroy's Bruce Lee movies, and just like Troy, you don't fuck with Troy's Chow Yun Fat movies. Like, that's the rules.
There are rules, Eric. There are rules.
Those are the rules.
And then he says, well, I'm going to go travel, to gain wisdom. And he says, no, go see Mother in Miami.
Yeah, like he's so...
I was like, what?
That's the thing. Like, he's so oblivious to just living a normal life. He's like, no, I'm going to visit my family. Like, everything's not a quest for searching for the glow and all of this, all this mumbo jumbo, what they call it in the movie. Before we go any farther, Jason, it's time for Whose Tagline Is It Anyway?
Yeah! You do a Muppets intro. I need Kermit right here. Yeah, taglines. Okay, whose tagline is it anyway? And we got extra players this week. The problem is these two are gonna know because they're on top of this movie. You know, like he's over here like reciting the whole freaking first half of the movie here. So he's gonna know.
This movie has a huge tagline too. It's actually on the poster.
Oh no, yeah, I did not do that one on purpose.
Okay.
And see, he's cheating anyway. It's right behind him. Okay, here we go. Need somebody to lend a foot? Meet Bruce Leroy Green.
To lend a foot? Fake.
I'm gonna go real.
I'm gonna say real. That sounds just shitty enough to be real.
Yeah, that's what I was. That was my logic.
I'm gonna go fake.
It's real.
Really?
So, Eric and Brad. There you go.
I was giving Brad a high five there.
Oh, and the points don't matter.
Oh, yes, they do. Okay. Bruce Lee was the dragon, but meet Bruce Leroy, the last dragon.
That's real.
That sounds real.
He sounds very confident. I'm going to agree with Josh.
I'm gonna say it's actually too good, so I'm gonna say it's fake.
All right.
I wrote it.
Fuck!
Wow.
Yeah! Oh, damn.
This is why I like this, Jason. You should be a marketing man. Great taglines.
Yeah, I was just this was hard, because like you said, that big long one on the wall back there is one of the main
only one
ones.
I know. To be quite honest, that's the only one I know of because that poster just has like.
Honestly, no taglines come to mind for this movie for me.
Yeah.
Who's the master?
That's so good that I think it's fake. I think it's fake.
I think it's fake.
I'll agree. Fake.
No Googling, Troy.
I'm not Googling. I'll be the opposite one. I'll say it's real.
I wrote it. It's fake.
Damn it.
Fuck you, Troy.
Man, Troy, he's got zero.
Troy knew this movie.
Yeah, I thought you were a master of The Last Dragon, Troy.
I'm not.
A master arts. I can't even say
You can't even say it. It's fake.
Master arts.
It's fake.
Yeah.
It's fake.
Yeah, a martial arts master so powerful he hesitated to unleash his power until the day he couldn't hesitate any longer.
Oh, that's real.
God.
That's real.
That sounds
Jason didn't
real
write
to
that.
me.
Yeah, let's go with real because that's terrible.
Yeah, it's real.
Yeah,
It's not even a tagline. It's like a movie summary.
That's
Everybody gets a point for that one. Okay. The last of his kind, the best of the best.
well, that's fake.
That's fake. That sounds like a different movie. That's
the
fake.
best of the best.
The best of the best of the best of the best, sir. All right, who we got here? All right, who has a guess?
I said fake.
fake.
All right, two fakes. Fake. Eric.
Fake.
Hollywood wrote it.
Fucking A.
Wow.
We all got that wrong.
Hollywood wrote it, but did they write it for this movie?
Exactly.
Oh no, it's under this. It's that, and then the best for last. Everybody was kung fu fighting.
No.
No, I'm gonna go with fake.
It's fake. Everybody got a point.
if that
So
would
who
have
won,
been
Brad.
Brad got 5.
Yeah,
He
Brad.
got them all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I missed one.
No, yeah, he missed one. I had 6 this week. I forgot. Yeah, Brad, and believe it or not, Eric behind that.
Sweet.
So when it said Eric,
Why would you not believe that?
because you normally lose to Josh every week.
Yeah, I know.
I'm never
So-
coming back, so I can be 100% winner.
But all right, but the thing is the guy who knows this movie better than anybody got 1. Oh, no, I'm sorry, you got 2. You got 2 because everybody got the last one, right?
Oh, good. Good. Yeah.
way to represent Troy.
Sorry, guys. Sorry. Didn't mean to
Thanks for
look-
playing. Come back and play again. So, there's your taglines. Moving on. Let's finish this movie up, guys.
We are at where Bruce Leroy has had enough, so he's like, "Fuck it, I'm gonna go fight show. It's what I got to do. It's what I got to do to find the glow." I think I've talked about this briefly on Not a Bomb, maybe not, but I might have mentioned it on this show. But one thing that always sucks me into movies, especially like ninja movies, is when they have a case or a hidden thing that just has all these fucking weapons in it.
Yeah.
And when Leroy goes into his dojo and just starts loading up on stuff, I was like, yes, yes. Unfortunately, he doesn't use half of these things when he goes into the final battle.
If you go, I go.
Okay.
Like Johnny was just completely not expecting that shit.
Oh shit! I gotta go fight people now. What the hell?
Troy, did you have a case of weapons?
Did I or
As a
do
young
I?
man? Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you?
I mean, when you were growing up in the 80s and you were watching ninja films, you had your own little case of weapons, of course.
One of my
I had a buddy. I didn't really. I had a few little things, but I had a buddy that was a full-on black belt in karate, trained with sais and bows and all this stuff, and he had, you name it, man. He had a freaking arsenal of, he could have armed a number of entire troops of Ninja Turtles.
Yeah, I to this day, I think the only thing I have left is my tonfas and my kendo equipment, but that's it.
Wow. But behind all those movies Troy has in his house is his secret compartments of ninja tools.
The bookshelf slides over.
Yeah. Do not invade his house.
Yeah, and he's got his ninja suit hanging up there. It's ready to go. I like it.
That's one of my favorite scenes from not Enter the Ninja. Ninja 3, The Domination, is when the guy goes into the cave at the beginning, and it opens up and it's got the glowing like table of all the ninja tools.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
They do that shit in all of those movies. That's another thing that I thought was so cool, was how ninjas had these secret compartments where they hid all their
mystical
weapons. Yeah.
Well, from the very beginning of doing this podcast, we had mentioned ninja movies and stuff like that and martial arts movies from the 80s, and this is basically the first one we've done, right?
Pretty much, yeah.
Am I forgetting something? But like American Ninja came up right at the beginning. We were talking about that. That was one that I know I rented a lot as a kid, and I guess Jason did as well.
I loved it.
Loved you some Dudikoff.
Dudikoff, baby. So we gotta do another one of those soon.
I've actually never seen American Ninja. Any of them.
What?
Yep.
Oh my goodness, man.
He's never seen Iron Eagle either. So
I've not seen
guys,
Iron Eagle.
he hasn't seen Kung Fu Hustle either.
Oh my goodness.
I have actually seen that.
At least I've seen that. Loser.
Everybody that's on the show tonight gets at least 10 minutes of dumping on for something they haven't seen or something they don't know about. No, I'm the first one to admit there's a lot of shit that I haven't seen from the 80s and 90s and from whatever. But that's
this genre is a rabbit hole. I mean, and that doesn't even include the stuff that was coming from like Taiwan and stuff like for ninja films or the Godfrey Ho stuff. I mean, you could probably dedicate an entire podcast for years just on ninja films from these 80s, early 90s.
Well, we talked about it earlier. Like when you walked into Blockbuster, you either sort of went over to the horror section or you went to like the Kung Fu section. And you would go back and forth and stuff, but you kind of picked a path at some point in time. And
and they were usually, if I recall, they were near each other. You got like action, martial arts, and
I kept trying to get
all right next to each other.
I kept trying to get in that section that had the curtain over the door. Like I didn't know like what was in there.
The X's on it. Yeah, I thought that was like that's where the treasure was because X marks the spot.
Troy brought up Vinegar Syndrome earlier. I feel like Vinegar Syndrome is just trying to be the VHS like naughty room, like where they're putting out all the movies you would have found in the room that was closed off in the video store.
Yeah, you get a Billy Blank special edition Blu-ray and then some XXX feature released on the same day. It's kind of awesome.
Yeah, it's great. So no, we're hitting our final battle here, and Eddie has decided to kidnap Laura yet again and hold her. And he's hired Sho, well, hired quote unquote. He offered Sho money, but Sho didn't want his money. He just wants to get the limp wimp there so he can beat his ass. And I find it funny that Sho doesn't show up anytime in the club. Like they wait and give him his own little section in the factory next door. But I've always found this fight in the club pretty fun. And it's like Jason brought up earlier with the music video stuff. It really kind of brings everything about it together right here at the end. And it's fun to watch Johnny and Eddie Reyes Jr. just out there kicking ass on the dance floor. Turns out Johnny actually knows some some kung fu moves, and he's pretty fucking good with nunchucks.
Yeah, his nunchuck skills.
Dude.
Are done, man.
I mean, he's been training under Leroy. Why wouldn't he be excellent? Right?
But
all these students are good.
He's got Michelangelo freaking nunchuck skills, dude.
Yeah,
Jesus, went from like nothing to right there.
I like that. I like that they had like an audition for murderers.
Yeah,
yeah.
And yeah, you get all these crazy characters.
It's so passe. Like he's talking to that one guy and he's like, "You did the factory murders?" It's like you're talking to a murderer. Yeah, and it's just passe, like whatever.
There's also varying degrees of effort put into each like assassin. So like some of the assassins, like that like wild man guy that's like lives in the mountains or something and barks like a dog. And then some of the guys are just like, I'm a guy with a like a boxing helmet.
Yeah, you get almost like Casey Jones looking dude, which I think is the Ernie Reyes Sr. who's fighting his son at that point.
Oh, nice.
What's also funny is you have fucking Dynamo from Running Man showing up there at the end, and everybody's kicking his ass and pulling his pants down.
Oh no! That is not Dynamo. That's White Mr. T.
White Mr. T.
It is, yeah.
Did you see his hair? That's White Mr. I wrote it in my notes.
Now, I didn't need to see his pants pulled down, but
yeah.
Well, I didn't need to see Dynamo's pants pulled down in fucking Running Man either.
There must be something with chubby white Santa Claus looking guys in the 80s. You had to see like their underwear.
I'm not showing you my underwear, Troy. Get over that shit.
Josh.
New segment idea. I have a new segment idea.
But can he sit on your lap?
I'm loving watching Eddie Reyes Jr. fuck people up, though. I mean,
dude, Ty, his character, dude. I love the little fighting. I mean, and he's kicking everybody's ass. He's a quarter of everybody's size.
Yeah, he's awesome.
Dominating.
They had some fun choreography with ways he would get people like down so he could get them on his level so he could punch them and kick them.
Even when the camera pans back, if you go back and watch it again, the choreography that's happening around everybody, it's still good choreography. Like they do a really good job of having so much chaos going on, but it doesn't look cheap. Like people have their own little fight thing going on, and then you have Ernie coming out and doing just these. He gets some height on his kicks.
Yeah,
I mean that little kid did a lot of plyometrics, and he's really good. But yeah, I mean you see. Between him and Johnny, it's so much fun. Much fun to watch.
And he also we're talking about Sho Kosugi movies earlier. Like it also reminded me of Kane Kosugi from those movies.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, you got a little guy just fucking people up with his skills.
Break dancing moves on a guy to
that's good.
Awesome.
That's good. But no, we get to this factory where the ultimate showdown with Sho and his people and Leroy goes down, and I would have expected a little bit bigger of a fight between all these people. I mean, you get one of Sho's henchmen, and then you got the showdown between Leroy and Sho. And I mean, I understand we're pushing the runtime here. Where Jason brought up earlier that it felt like a music video. If you would have cut a couple of the music videos down, we might have had a little more time to spend with some of these guys.
They had their budget cut by about $2 million, so
right.
they had to back off on the action sequences. And there's a story too that. I think the director and the writer, they were in a hotel room and trying to pare down the script, and one of them fell asleep, and I think it was Michael Schultz ended up deleting like 40 pages, and they had to go back and rewrite it. But
I remember, I heard about that. Yeah,
studio basically came back and said, we're not doing this unless you cut like $2 million off, and so you're going for the expensive fight stuff. And keep in mind too, it's all building up to Sho and Bruce Leroy.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm kind of glad that you get the club scene, everybody kind of throwing down there.
Right.
And really it comes down to these two. And, say what you will about the choreography and stuff like that. That final fight sequence, every time I watch it, I'm literally getting goosebumps because that last Dragon song kicks in. You hear Dwight David's and I am on the edge of my seat because that whole fight sequence isn't so much about the fighting as much it is about the style. And then you get some Star Wars shit combined with Kung Fu, and it's amazing. Well, it is absolutely amazing.
I remember being very, I don't know if I would say upset, but really confused by the fact that Sho gets the glow before Leroy does.
Yeah.
And considering the fact that throughout this movie, Sho is literally just looking to whip Leroy's ass and be the Shogun of Harlem. He never mentions anything about finding a glow or any of that. Like, it doesn't seem like it's of any interest to him.
Is this some kind of lesser glow?
Like, well, he gets it in his hands.
It's only his hands.
It's only in his hands. Yeah.
Right. Like, it seemed to me like it was like a corrupted version of like what the glow really is. Like,
yeah, he's a Sith Lord.
Right. If you want like the true glow, you got to follow all this. Yeah. Like the Jedi, I guess. But so it just looks awesome. Like the red with his red clothes. I love the look of all that animation going on in that final fight scene as well.
It looks good in 2022.
It does. It looks awesome.
I think,
and that's the point of the movie where I start to really think of Golden Child and Big Trouble in Little China, where you've got this big, you got the big fight scene with all the people, and then you've got this sort of showdown, and then you've got some of this rotoscoping effect going on, some supernatural stuff. Yeah, I love the end of this movie. I love this part with the big showdown for sure.
Kind of wish they would have done it a little bit more. Like, I like the glow stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you see him like fight and they, the hits make contact and it kind of shoots out, you're like, I kind of wish that was like the overall look they went with the whole movie in a way, because I think it looks so cool.
I'll disagree. If they did,
it wouldn't be special then. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And I like that this, I mean, you got to keep in mind, I think we get spoiled sometimes with the Jackie Chan and the Marvel fight sequence and stuff like that. You go back to the 80s, like one of the things I appreciate about the 80s films is, Bruce Leroy has this awesome kick that he does where it's kind of like a cartwheel kick where he catches Sho across the face. It's fantastic looking. There's not a lot of fluff in the hits in this film, and I like that. I like the pacing of it. I like that the glow comes at a certain time period. You get it, and then it's over. I mean, he kicks the crap out of Julius, and Julius goes flying, and that just ends it. I mean,
and the fact that Julius Carey, does this entire ending sequence without any, martial arts training, I don't find it any less of a fight between he and Leroy. I still feel like they're kicking each other's ass. I think it's a good fight.
They were. I mean, I want to say the only stunt double that was kind of used in the final sequence is when Bruce Leroy gets kicked off that platform, then has to land.
Yeah.
But you got to keep in mind, like Julius was so tall they couldn't find a stuntman for him, so he's taking the hits and he's doing all this stuff. So
right,
yeah, and just going back to the catching the bullet thing, I had forgotten there was this movie in my head from my childhood where this guy catches a bullet in his mouth, and I could never think of what it was like, and I just stopped trying to think. But that's this eureka moment when someone mentioned it earlier in the film. I'm just like, dude, that's the movie. Like I forgot it forever. And I just, it's funny.
I love when I rediscover movies like that. It's like, I know I've seen a movie with this in it, and then one day I'm just watching a random movie and I'm like, it's the fucking movie I was thinking about.
That's that thing that happened.
Yeah.
It's funny because in my head, and I'll just admit this, in my head, it was a white guy.
Oh, of course, Eric.
Hey,
wow,
I am a white guy. But and Leroy's
light.
He's a light man.
You're a white guy? What?
Yeah.
What is going on?
I guess that's not completely evident, but I am white. Yeah.
Eric, tell us about your heritage, Eric.
White. White on my mom's side, and on my dad's side it's white. So,
it's white.
Yeah, mostly white. So yeah, it was cool to rediscover that for sure, and a great moment. And I remember really loving that moment as a kid. Just like, whoa, he caught a freaking bullet in his mouth. How cool is that?
Well, my favorite moment in this entire thing is when Leroy finally realizes what it is he's been looking for. And when Sho pulls him out and he says, "Who's the master?" And he goes, "I am," like that smile he's got on his face. Like that is the other moment in this where I'm like, Ty Mac hit it on the head. I was like, that shit right there is awesome. And then when he catches that fist,
catches the punch. Yeah.
And he just kind of smiles at Show and he puts him to the ground. I was like, yeah, like as a kid, and even watching it now, I was like, yeah, dude, that shit just feels good when it happens.
It does.
I remember seeing in the theater and everybody just lighting up for that sequence. Like it was a sort of a crowd pleasing moment. Yeah. And I love the fact that even leading up to that, Julius, you can see his eyes kind of busted and it's swollen up over it. You really get sort of that punch drunk, and he's trying to deliver that line of like, I'm going to, who's the master?
Yeah.
But Julius his face kind of looks a little rough as he's doing this dunking. And then when that sequence happens, it's like a Rocky moment, right?
Yeah.
And you just get that swelling feeling like, okay, the tide's turning. But I specifically from a childhood perspective, remember seeing that in theater and just, shouting and the whole theater just going nuts over it. So it was kind of a big deal. And that's, I miss movies like that. I miss movies with a full open crowd, like sold out, and you get to that event. The last thing I can think of is the Avengers film when, Captain America picks up Thor's hammer.
Yeah.
I mean, it was
went nuts.
Yeah. And it was kind of that sort of thing when he gets the glow and catches, Shonuff's fist.
And I even like when Show's trying to fight and the glow is flickering and whatnot. Like he's losing it a little bit. Like he's starting to question himself.
Yeah. You see that self-confidence leave him and like, oh my God, it's awesome. That whole sequence, if you were to go back and think of not just like iconic villains and stuff like that, but think of iconic sequences in films and especially action films.
Yeah.
This last part of this film would definitely be for me in the top 10. I love it so much.
Wow. All right. 10. Well, I mean, other than defeating Show, the only thing we've got is like Leroy and Laura. Like where do we end with them in this movie?
Teach me some moves.
I would let Vanity show me some moves any day. I'm sorry.
Amen. She was amazing.
And that's The Last Dragon. I get the feeling a lot of the moments that we're talking about and gushing over, at least Troy, Brad, and I, are going to come up in our next segment.
The good, the bad, the ugly.
You guys want to take it?
Yeah! And the main reason I think that they're going to come up is I feel like a lot of these moments are about to come up on Jason's bad list.
Boy.
Oh, man.
I've been watching Jason's face as we talk about this movie, and I've seen Jason's face sink a few times. So should we start with Jason or should we start on a higher note?
Start with Jason. Let's
Jason.
Let's get this negativity
end on a high note.
Well, hey, I did write some good. I like the Shonuff character. I do like him, even though, like I said, he's like great value Eddie Murphy.
No,
but I like it because to me, he knows he is kind of the laughing part of the movie, and his character is meant for that. Everybody else in the movie that's the bad part, because really Shonuff is my favorite part of the whole movie. That's it. That's my good is Shonuff, because I move straight into the bad. Everybody else takes themselves too seriously, and the acting is horrible. So that's just me. Like you said, what's his name? The main character, I can't even remember his name. It's forgettable to me. So
you can't remember Bruce Leroy?
Oh no, I mean the actor's name. The actor's name. Timac. Yeah. Tarmac. Yeah. Timac. Like Eric said, I mean, even his character is just kind of nothing there. I know he was learning to act while making this movie. I know he had martial arts skills and stuff, but I think they could have probably got somebody better to play the character. I don't know.
What you seek is not written on the floor.
Jason, they tried to get Wesley Snipes and Denzel Washington.
Yeah, either one of them could have done better. So, and I love me some Wesley Snipes and Denzel.
I can't imagine Denzel Washington in this role.
No,
I'm sorry.
Neither of those could capture a sort of that Bruce Leroy fish out of water look and naivete.
Yeah, the acting by Vanity is not great. Yeah, she might be great eye candy. Her acting is not that great.
I thought Vanity. Never mind.
I'll let this man say his piece.
Yeah, I'm just saying my pieces here. That's it. I got over of the whole Barry Gordy music video through the whole thing. The best part of the whole thing was just hearing the DeBarge song. The rest of the songs, don't care. They're not great. Like you said, they won 2 Razzies for 2 of the main songs.
No, they didn't win. They were just nominated.
Oh no, nominated. Sorry.
You didn't like the Stevie Wonder song or the Smokey Robinson or?
I like those songs not in this movie.
Okay.
So I like some Motown music. I like that. I grew up listening to that too. So
there was a moment earlier when Troy said, "If you watch this movie again," and I looked over at Jason, and Jason was like, "I'm never watching this fucking movie."
Yeah, and the ugly is just the Last Dragon song. That song is freaking horrible.
Oh my God.
That no. I mean, I can understand why it was nominated for a Razzie.
No.
I get Seventh Heaven, but I actually really like the Last Dragon song.
I didn't like the Last Dragon. Either one of them, that and Seventh Heaven, is just like it took me out of it. I mean, will I watch this movie again? Probably not, but that's just me. But it was cool to watch. I do like the Show Enough character. I could definitely see, like, growing up watching Busta Rhymes in music videos, I think he pulls, like you said, a lot of his personality from the Show Enough character and put it into his own life.
Well, now that you've seen this movie, like, you see the influence this movie has had on culture.
Oh yeah, I can see where I can see that it's a pop culture phenomenon, but you have to be into that vein of movies, and that's just not my area of expertise. And like I said, I like some karate movies and kung fu movies. I mean, shit, like you said, I've even seen Kung Fu Hustle. Josh ain't even seen it, but I give
there
it.
You have it, folks.
I take it for what it is. It is that. I'm not trying to trash somebody else's favorite movie. That's just my opinion. So, but I can see why people who love kung fu movies love this movie. I see that.
Right.
All right, we're gonna throw it over to Brad next. Brad hasn't said much this episode. I don't think we've given him the opportunity to, honestly. But
well, Troy's the expert, so it's all good. I have to agree with Jason. The good is Show Enough, and Show Enough is one of the most iconic. I mean, if you see this movie, Show Enough stands out.
So let's just go ahead and put it out there. I mean, Show Enough is in everybody's good category, correct? Like. No. Oh no! Okay. An upset. Okay, I'm sorry for interrupting, Brad. Yeah. We'll get to Troy in just a minute.
Don't assume our lists. Okay.
Thank you, Eric.
Bad. I have the little brother, Richie. I think Richie sucks.
Damn.
I can agree with that too.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then the ugly, interrupting Enter the Dragon in the theater. I mean, is there anything than that?
There you go.
That was a note I had. I was like, who the fuck is breakdancing during Enter the Dragon, dude?
Come on, man. Like, it's
or any
good
film.
Parts, too.
Or any
it's rude regardless of what film is
well, but especially during
I mean, if you're breakdancing during break-in, I can understand. Yeah. I mean.
Okay, I guess that's one example.
Or even breaking to Electric Boogaloo. I mean, come on, Eric. Get with the program.
All right. Fair enough. There are exclusions to that rule.
Rapping, Crush Groove. Come on.
Yeah, come on.
So there you go.
All right, we'll throw it over to Eric next. Eric, good, the bad, and the ugly.
Okay. Let's see. I have a couple good. One, I really like it when the guy takes a slice of pizza and then kicks the door in on his way out. Excellent comedic moment. And then I like when Richie break dances out of the ropes.
Yep.
Anyway, that's my good. I like Show Enough too. I just didn't put it on the list.
Fuck you, Eric.
Seventh Heaven. Seventh Heaven's my bad. Sorry, I didn't enjoy that performance, regardless of how sexual the lyrics are. It wasn't enough for me.
Wasn't enough.
I feel like Brad should re-record that song.
Yeah, do you want me to read them to you a little bit like softer this time? Do you want them like softer and like a lower voice this time?
Yeah, Eric doesn't like the sexual lyrics by Vanity in this song, but he loves glistening men at the beginning of the movie.
Well,
I also like when Brad reads the lyrics.
Yeah, when he did, yeah.
And yeah.
Check your voicemail later, Eric.
Okay. Okay, and then ugly, too many woos and wahs. I get why they're there. It's just a little too many. Carve down, chip it down a little bit.
All right.
That's it for me.
All right, Troy, I'm gonna throw it over to you, my friend.
Ooh, I can't wait.
Well, the good, I would say, is this combination of Kung Fu and Motown for me. So it has this 80s feel. It is a time capsule. But the fact you get Willie Hutch, Stevie Wonder, Smokey Robinson, Alfie, Vanity, DeBar,
Rockwell. Don't forget Rockwell.
Rockwell, yeah.
Everyone's favorite Rockwell.
I love the soundtrack. I love the music. I even love the parody songs to it. They're goofy and fun. But this infusion of this Motown vibe with Kung Fu, it's not just a homage to blaxploitation, but it's sort of just a homage to everything 70s with sort of an 80s sensibility. It's one of the most 80s films you're going to come across too.
Yeah, I did have a note just saying this is one of the most 80s films that we've watched.
Yeah, it is.
Along with Legend of Billie Jean was also incredibly, like, just when you think of 80s, like, yeah for sure. Carry on.
If you were picking, like, give me some of the top 80s films that are the 80-ish of all time. This is one of them, right?
For sure.
So that for me is the good. The great is Julius Carry as Sho'nuff. I mean, he's so iconic. He is one of the best screen villains. Nobody, as much as I love Jim Kelly is a hero to me. I just can't see Jim Kelly doing that role after watching Julius Carry did, because it is the perfect just blend of intimidation yet absurdity. And it's so memorable. Like, I know Jason, I like Jason's comment of like, hey, this isn't sort of my genre of film. And I get that, where you might not love it, but you will always remember Sho'nuff. Like, for years, you'll quote Sho'nuff, you'll buy the t-shirt. I mean, it's awesome, right? And then the awesome is for the fact.
Wait.
He didn't play the rule. He's not playing.
Yeah, he's breaking the rules.
So the awesome is, I don't think enough people give this thing credit for being an 85 film and breaking down so many stereotypes and having fun with it.
Yeah.
And it actually is just this fun, inspiring film that when you take a step back, it just brings so many different types of people and culture and everything together.
I don't think you hit a $15 million gross in those days just by going for a black audience. So it accomplished what I hoped. It would reach beyond the box.
Our movies are not black movies. They're movies with black people.
Last Dragon was a uniting force in the black community, and then it permeated the whole urban community and then went out from there.
Not until 1985, when The Last Dragon came on the scene, I saw a reflection of myself, a hero that reflects my image. It gave me encouragement. It gave me a sense of esteem as a young person of color growing up in the 70s and the 80s.
And I love some of these meta statements that it's doing with all these different cultures, trying to, hey, I really like this aspect of it. I want to learn more. So they start kind of just diving headfirst into it. It's not culture appropriation or anything like that. You really get this sort of innocence and appreciation, and you want to learn everything into it. So you just immerse yourself into it. And I think that's a message that when you try and get that in 2022 sensibilities, it just sounds preachy and wonky and everything else.
Yeah.
Whereas, say what you will, Michael Schultz specifically just brought that all together and just made it organic. And I just think it's one of those few films, if you take a step back and go, name a film that did it so naturally and had so much to say about that. And it was fun to watch. It's a short list, and I would say this would be number one. There's no bad and there's no ugly about this. For me, it's a perfect film. So,
well, you make a great point. We talk a lot about on this show about how you watch some of these old movies, and sometimes, a lot of the time, there are things in them that would not be acceptable today.
Right,
would be frowned upon, and some of those things are good. It's good that some of those things can't be done today. But I think a movie like this, the way it does it, like you say, it does it. I don't know that you could make a movie this way today and have the room to play with those stereotypes the way they do.
Right.
And it doesn't feel mean-spirited to me.
Not at all. It has an appreciation for everything.
Right.
And it's feeling a real love for it.
But even with that, I think there's not enough room for that today with kind of as sensitive as people are,
Right.
So like that sensitivity is good in many cases, but it tends to overcorrect a bit to where you don't have enough space to play with ideas like this movie does and like some other movies do from that era,
No,
so
you're right.
It is nice to get into that kind of stuff.
I agree 100%. I think the problem with the world today is not enough people watch The Last Dragon.
That's what's wrong with the world.
That is exactly what's wrong with the world.
Well, Jason, you're not part of the problem anymore.
No, I watched it.
Well, that leaves me. I'll say the good is the fish tank thing, whatever, and Eddie Arcadian's little loft that he's got there. I don't even know if that's a house or an apartment, whatever it is, but I love that it's there. I love that it's not explained. It's just
is
there.
it just like his office in the
It's his office
building?
at the arcade because he gives them quarters to go out.
I
and
just
play
learned
games.
I learned that he has arcades.
Yeah.
So I'm just applying.
Well, this is a weird office with lots of neon lights and refrigerators full of meat and fish tanks with piranhas or whatever the fuck are in it.
It's the 80s, man.
Do you think they fed William H. Macy to whatever's in that tank?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
That's why you never see him again.
Yeah. He's
Josh,
fully
who has the
devoured.
better arcade? Noah from Wayne's World or Arcadian?
Well, Noah blows goats, so I'm gonna have to go with Arcadian.
Yes.
But I didn't even notice it was an arcade in Arcadian's arcade. So
But
it wasn't very arcade.
Noah does have a better jingle.
Come bust a move where the games are played. It's chill, it's fresh, it's Noah's Arcade.
I'm gonna say I'm not gonna say show because obviously show's great, but I will say show's outfits are one of my good. I love fucking show's outfits. Johnny Ralphio, I like Johnny U. I think he's hilarious. I can't imagine anybody other than John Ralphio as that character now though. So, and then my bad is gonna be the Seventh Heaven song. Particularly there's a moment in the middle eight where she stops and she goes, never say never. Like, oh, I don't like that. I don't like that at all.
I got tingles when you did it. The same way I get tingles when Vanity does it. It's uncanny.
The same way you get tingles when Chow Yun Fat's on.
Yeah, dude.
And then
no lie there.
ugly for me is Angela's music. Angela makes a turnaround for me, but Angela's music I'm not a fan of, and I think it's ugly.
Wasn't it supposed to be?
Yeah, I think that's the whole idea.
Yeah, that's okay.
Well,
That's
then
acceptable.
it's in the perfect place then.
Okay,
It's basically saying white people have no rhythm and can't write music. Is what we're getting in this movie.
It's not inaccurate.
I mean, the bad guy is a white guy.
Exactly.
I mean, she's doing then what Lady Gaga is doing now. So I mean, who's the artist, All right, well, let's get back to what I started at the beginning here. We're going to talk about what word was said the most and how many times. All right, and our words are master and show enough. So what's everybody's guess on master? How many times do you think they said this in this movie?
Oh,
or actually, let's just say
71.
Okay.
23.
35.
I'll say 55.
It will have to go to Troy. It's 49.
Oh,
Actually, he went over, so I guess it doesn't
that's
really
right.
go to him.
Oh no,
Sorry,
yeah.
Troy.
$1.
Price is Right rules here, man.
Dang it.
All right. And how many times was show enough said in this movie?
20.
Oh, I was going to say 53.
18.
Oh, I'm going to say 25.
Troy's getting so close, but going over. It was 24. And obviously, master was said the most out of those two.
11.
Her number.
11.
I like it.
Well, That was an awesome conversation about The Last Dragon. I'm so glad you guys could come on. Troy, Brad, thank you so much for joining us to talk about The Last Dragon.
Yeah, we've been wanting to get you guys on here a long time, so glad we're finally able to do it.
All right. Well, if you guys are not familiar with Not a Bomb, please check them out on all the podcast platforms. We'll leave a link in the description box below so you can get to their show. It's a great show. I've been on there a handful of times, like 5 or 6 now. Eric's been on there a couple of times. Maybe one day Jason will get on there and talk with you guys. You got to do a horror movie, though. Got to get a horror movie for Jason.
Oh no, I'm no longer allowed because I just trashed The Last Dragon.
No,
so
we're going to convert him. We're picking a ninja film, and Jason's going to come talk.
There you go.
One of us.
Don't forget to visit the description box and check out our Redbubble store. You can get a shirt that shows the VHS Files logos. I mean, Eric's been designing some great stuff lately. We've got some t-shirts. Go support us in that way. Buy a shirt, buy a hat, buy a coffee mug, get you a tumbler. Anything that we've got is going to be on Redbubble at your dispense. You can get it anytime, anywhere. Redbubble.com, VHS Files. Get you some merch. If you like horror movies, if you like horror t-shirts, things of that nature, visit our friends over at Cavity Colors. You can get 10% off your order with the code VHS Files Podcast. Make sure you visit cavitycolors.com. You can get there by the link in the description box below. But that's going to do it for this conversation about The Last Dragon. Thank you so much to the Not a Bomb guys for joining us on this episode. Maybe we'll have you back again. And until we see you next time, be kind. Now you guys say rewind.
Rewind!
Rewind! Rewind! No, do they call it the when they fall in the hole in Princess Bride? Do they call that quicksand, or do they call it something else?
I don't know. I'm not putting this in the episode.
Wow, this is good shit right here.
This is fucking gold.
People want to know, Josh.
They want to know. Takes a licking and keeps on ticking.
Sorry about that, guys.
Absolutely. No, that's fine. We do it all the time. I was close to interrupting to go get another beer anyway, so.
Okay.
Eric's usually got to get a drink or go pee. So you think he would be the old man of the group here.
Those things are connected as well. The more drinks I go get, the more peeing I have to do.